Hardee's Happy Hour isn't your average happy hour. From 2 to 5 p.m., double sliders are only $1.25. Call it a charbroiled hour, a double beef hour, a whole lot of melty cheese hour. Call it what you want. Happy Hour at Hardee's is a good call. Offer for a limited time and only between 2 and 5 p.m. Price and participation may vary. Tax not included.
Who will force the issue on tight ends in tonight's draft? Will experienced pros Sigmund Bloom, Rich Rebar, and Josh Hornsby be too much for the Joes to handle? And who will end Patrick Mahomes' inevitable slide in Pros versus Joes number 3? Follow along with the live draft board tonight and listen to our live analysis as we call the action from the 2018 FFPC Pros versus Joes Rudy Does It Again number 3 league to see who will win a 2019 FFPC main event team. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Hey, bro.
Broadcast live and heard around the world. You are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
Hey, thanks a lot, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzakin addicts. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I am your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the patron saint of fantasy football. You know him as the Dizzle. He is Dave Gerzak. Tonight, we are bringing you the third of 6 extra special bonus episodes of the HSFF Hour for you. It's the FFPC Pros vs. Joes Rudy Does It Again League number 3 live draft coverage tonight, and we will be here for the next 2 hours. Follow the live draft board at youtube.com/highstakesfantasyfootball. And shout out to the chat room right now. As we broadcast tonight, you can post your questions you might have in there. Connect with us on Twitter at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, or at David Gerzak. Facebook.com/HSFF Hour is where to reach us there. And if you want to give us a call and talk about the draft tonight, we encourage that type of behavior. It's 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is indeed the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, all the tweets, all the emails throughout the show tonight. Of course, our producer and mutual friend Rob and our audio engineer Bryce working hard to get those to us. As a reminder, I don't know if you saw this from the FFPC newsletter that went out today, but we've extended the early draft slot deadline another 24 hours. So at midnight Pacific time tonight, which is probably about 5 hours away, you have 5 hours to pay off your main event team or register another team for $300 off at that $1,500 price, and you will have your main event early draft slot before August. You'll know what it is. When you're drafting in September, you know the draft slot in July, and you'll be able to game plan with that, FFPC best balls, Football Guys Players Championship drafts. So you can just sign up at myffpc.com for those right now. So square those balances away. myffpc.com. If you are not familiar with this show and you're tuning in for the first time, I apologize and thank you for dialing us up. The HSFF Hour normally airs Friday nights at 10/9 Central, and you can always stream the show online for listening anytime via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, Spreaker, and Overcast. As a reminder, I want to thank Darren Armani from FantasyMojo.com, who has all things FFPC ADP over at his site, FantasyMojo.com, and he puts the Pros vs. Joes competition together every year. And, of course, Rob and Bryce for working extra time. And Dave Gerzak, the Dizzle, tonight. Third straight night in a row. How you feeling, buddy?
I feel pretty good.
You do. You look good.
Thanks. The only thing I've run out of maraschino cherries, so my mixed drinks are not going to be quite as good.
I got to tell you, man, if that's the biggest problem we run into tonight, it is going to be a good show.
It's a little annoying.
Well, it is annoying.
My wife's out of town. Normally she could help me out with something like that.
She normally she's the maraschino cherry getter in the household?
No, probably not. She wouldn't. Anything that encourages drinking, she might not be.
Well, that's just, maraschino cherries just encourage eating. You don't drink them, man. I think I brought this up on the show last year.
What watch are you wearing, by the way? You have a nice one on.
This is a Jack Spade.
Jack
Spade, yeah. Chronograph. I like
smaller,
it.
But it's all right.
It's smaller and it's gold, but, I kind of like the rose gold. Yeah.
Right.
I think I mentioned this on the show last year. Have you ever had cherry bounce before? Where they soak the cherries in whiskey and then eat the cherries and...
Yeah, I had it with, what was the Everclear? I had it with Everclear before.
Oh, yeah. What'd you think of that? You have to be careful how much fruit you're...
It wasn't that good.
Yeah, I like it, but it's
probably better with whiskey or something.
Yeah, it was really... Rum is really good, too, by the way. So tonight is the third draft, and I want to give you the lineup tonight of who is drafting. The Joes will have the odd number picks tonight. The Pros will have the even numbers. And kicking things off from the one spot tonight, former guest of the show, Paul Miley, and his co-manager, Arnie Grebanowski, they are picking first. The Dynasty Command Center team of Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell are in the 2-hole. Casey Dodge and...
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think you're trying to...
Oh, my gosh, I got the wrong thing. This is
why you don't...
I know.
Have next time.
You're totally right. I screwed up.
See, and look at my sheet. I took my pen, I crossed it off.
Yeah, good for you. That's what I should have
done. On Sunday, those knobs will be drafting. They're not here tonight, so forget them.
The Joes are still in the odd spots tonight. Stephen Michaud, FFPC Joe, he is drafting first. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Every once in a while I can help out.
Dan Sanyo from Dynasty League Football and RotoViz is in the 2 spot tonight. FFPC Joe Derek Brinkman is in the 3-hole tonight. Another Dynasty League Football representative, Kevin O'Brien, the FF engineer. He is hitting cleanup tonight in the 4 spot. Richard Beard is the FFPC Joe in the 5th. A new competitor in the Pros vs. Joes competition this year from the Quant Edge, Elliot Christ, picking 6th tonight, right in front of Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs, who are picking 7th. And former Pros vs. Joes league champ Sigmund Bloom from FootballGuys.com is picking 8th. Chad Castorina right behind him at 9. And then, of course, Roto World's second representative of the competition so far, Rich Rebar, Lord Reeves, is in the 10 spot. Rounding out things for the Joes tonight is Don Azell from the 11 spot. And then, of course, Fantasy ADHD himself from Fantasy Insiders. It is Josh Hornsby picking on the turn at the 12 tonight. So let's get into the analysis, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't checked out the live streaming draft board, you can follow along at youtube.com/highstakesfantasyfootball. And kicking things off tonight, and I think Shane Hallam made this comment in the draft room. Third consecutive night, we see Todd Gurley go first overall. Normally, we do see some curveballs thrown in here with the number 1 overall pick. It does not happen tonight, as Stephen Michaud does take Todd Gurley there. Dan Sanyo from DLF and RotoViz goes with David Johnson. Dave, that is an interesting curveball there, picking him over Le'Veon Bell. I don't think I'd be able to do that, but certainly with Le'Veon Bell's contract situation, there's I guess not too much of a concern that he would miss time. But David Johnson, man, was a beast when he was healthy in 2016. And maybe he can have that type of season again. So at the 2 spot, it might pay off.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you like, it's worth a shot. I would even Bell myself. I could see going David Johnson if you really like him.
And Derek Brinkman was happy to see Le'Veon Bell, I'm assuming, fall to him at the 3. And then Le'Veon Bell's real-life teammate, Antonio Brown, goes to Kevin O'Brien at the 4 tonight. So he had the opportunity to take Ezekiel Elliott there. He goes with the receiver instead with Brown. And then Richard Beer snatches up Ezekiel Elliott at the 5 spot, the first of 3 consecutive running backs taken here in the mid-first. Alvin Kamara to Elliott Christ. Saquon Barkley right after that to Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs. Rob Gronkowski, I think this is the second night in a row we see him go at the 108. And if you listen to the Football Guys podcast, I believe Sigmund Bloom, this is ringing in my head for some reason. I think he mentioned it on the couch. I think he said that if Gronkowski was there at the 8 spot, he would take him. And sure enough, he was there, and Gronk goes to Sigmund Bloom at the 108. Melvin Gordon the selection right after that to Chad Castorina. And then you have Leonard Fournette at the 110 to Rich Rebar. DeAndre Hopkins is Don Azel's selection at the 111. I believe that's the second consecutive night. Hopkins goes at the 111. Went to Jake Seeley at the 111 last night. And then Julio Jones, the news that came out today was not enough to dissuade Fantasy ADHD Josh Hornsby to go somewhere else. He takes Julio Jones. Does not matter to him about Julio saying he's not reporting to training camp. Gets him at the 112. Is that a pick that you would make in the first round? I mean, how concerned are you about this contract situation with Julio and not reporting?
Well, it's a little bit of a concern. I would have taken Beckham over Julio just myself. That's just my own opinion.
And I mean, what if we knew Jones was reporting?
Same thing.
Okay.
I just have him right tired.
So it doesn't affect it too much for you as far as that goes.
Right.
Okay. Travis Kelce leads things off with the first pick of the second round. So he goes Josh Hornsby, Julio Jones, and Travis Kelce back-to-back there. Odell Beckham is Don Azel's pick as he starts off receiver, one of two teams to do so tonight. He pairs Hopkins with Beckham there. Kareem Hunt falling a little bit tonight. He goes at the 203 to Rich Rebar. What do you think the reason for that was? That's a little peculiar to see Hunt going in the second round. I don't know if I've seen that done in pros versus Joes, and it's been pretty rare that I've seen it in any football guys' drafts either.
Yeah, that is a big drop actually for Hunt. It's nice value for Rebar.
Yeah, I really like that pick right there. Hunt pairing with Fournette. You know, if you ever see Hunt paired with Fournette, it normally is Hunt being drafted first and then Fournette coming back in the second round. Not so here as Rebar gets both Fournette and Hunt in tow. Keenan Allen is the selection at the 204 for Chad Castorina, and then Dalvin Cook is Sigmund Bloom's second-round pick. He goes Gronkowski and Cook. I like that start, especially in this format for sure. Michael Thomas is Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaac's selection there as Thomas goes off the board at the 206. And then a couple of MAC running backs, Christian McCaffrey to Elliott Christ, Jerick McKinnon to Richard Beard. Both those guys start off running back in this best ball format. A.J. Green is Kevin O'Brien's pick at the 209. So he starts off receiver, just like Don Azel did. That's two teams that went receiver to begin. Devontae Adams to Derek Brinkman at the 210. The FFPC Joe takes the Packers' #1 receiver there. Dan Stanio takes Devontae Freeman, the Falcons running back, at the 211. And the final pick of the second round is Stephen Michaud's Doug Baldwin. So Baldwin goes at the 212 tonight. So we're seeing a lot of variation here. Jerick McKinnon continues to creep up draft boards, and I don't know. Do you think he can get up to the early second round by the time the FFPC main event rolls around, Dave, or are we at his ceiling right now in the mid-second?
I'm sure someone's going to take him really early in the second round. I mean, if you really like the player, you're definitely not getting him in the third. And if you don't want to go with receivers, I could see him going anywhere from the 201 to the 206. Yeah,
I mean, especially if he shows something in the preseason. I don't know how much they're going to use him in the preseason, but I got to believe he'll be out there. And it'll be interesting to see if he flashes. Maybe he does creep all the way up to an early second-round pick. For those of you not familiar with this format, the FFPC offers the starting lineup is a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 flexes, a tight end, a kicker, and a defense. So you can start up to 4 running backs, up to 4 receivers, 3 tight ends if you want. And you say, Balky, why would you ever start 3 tight ends? Well, the FFPC is a tight end premium format, so tight ends get 1.5 points per catch. And certainly that is enough to seduce some owners to drafting tight ends early and often in this draft. We saw it last night in the Upside Down draft that we broadcast live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. 3 teams had 2 tight ends by the end of round 5. Now tonight we're not seeing necessarily that happen. However, as we enter the third round here, we already see 4 tight ends off the board. So it's going to be interesting to see if tight ends do get pushed up tonight as we enter in the third round of what's going on in the draft. T.Y. Hilton, once again, Dave, T.Y. Hilton, you cannot pick him in the middle of a draft. He has to be picked on the turn. Whether it's the 2-3 turn, whether it's the 3-4 turn, T.Y. Hilton in this format always seems to go at the end.
He went like the 303, 304 in the first one, Balky.
Close enough to the turn.
It's early for Hilton. It's earlier than Hilton's gone. That's the earliest he's gone so far.
So and then Zach Ertz is the third tight end off the board. No surprise there. as far as, when Ertz goes off. Ryan Santos took him last night when we were talking to him at FF Links on Twitter. He dialed into the show. We were talking to him about that Ertz pick. And for him, it was a guy that he had been looking at anyway to make sure he gets one of the elite tight ends there. But it turned out that it paid off, because after he took Ertz, before he got the chance to pick again, you were looking at already like whatever it was, 5 tight ends off the board. And then we saw 2 teams right in the middle double up on tight end in the 4th and 5th round. So they flew fast and often last night. LaShawn McCoy is the 303 selection for Derek Brinkman, his second running back that he selected to pair with Le'Veon Bell. He goes at the 303 tonight, much earlier than he went in last night's draft, which I believe he slipped to the 403, if I'm remembering correctly. Dave, you're always the genius with remembering where players went the night before. Was 403 for McCoy? Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does sound right.
Okay.
I think he was around that spot for both drafts, actually.
Oh, okay. So this is the earliest he's gone in any Pros versus Joe's draft, as far as we can tell, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Given his possible situation and possible not situation.
Well, it is a situation. I mean, it's not. There's no possible about it. I mean, what's possible is that there could be some serious punishment off it. And
what's possible is that it's a total fiction.
And it could be that as well. Mike Evans is the 3rd straight receiver going to Kevin O'Brien. So he is the only team that starts off receiver. Seemed to work out well for Jake Seeley last night. We'll see what Kevin O'Brien does here. He is the FF engineer, by the way. If anybody's going to engineer a great roster here after 3 receivers, it's going to be Kevin O'Brien as he gets Mike Evans there. Greg Olson is Richard Beard's tight end at the 305, his number 1 tight end and the 4th tight end off the board. Jordan Howard, the 3rd straight running back drafted by Elliot Christ from the Quant Edge. So he goes Kamara, McCaffrey, Jordan Howard. That's a lot of touches if you look at that lineup, both with catches and rushes throughout the season. We saw the news come out, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, that Ron Rivera expects that it's not out of the question that Christian McCaffrey get 200-plus rushes. What? 200-plus rushes for a guy who caught 80 passes last year? That is a ton of touches, and you definitely, there's
a lot of McCaffrey haters out there, Walt.
Oh, is there?
Oh, yeah. They're explaining all the reasons why he won't catch as many passes, and there's all these problems with, with Greg Olson being healthy, that McCaffrey, it's actually a pretty decent viewpoint that when Olson was healthy, that McCaffrey was not as productive as a PPR back. I would argue, though, that McCaffrey, that was earlier in the season when he was healthy. So I'm still super bullish on McCaffrey. I really like it. I think it's
super bullish. I love it.
Season.
That's a great team name, and probably going to be tantamount to as great as this next caller is going to be. We're going to go to the 904 here and speak with you. Caller, you are on the air with Balky and Dave for the Pros vs. Joe's coverage. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, it's Ken Williams here in Jackson, Florida.
Hey, how's it going? What's your impression of the draft thus far?
Man, of course I'm a Joe, so I'm listening to you guys pick, and I think I'm pretty impressed with Elliott's team. Kamara, McCaffrey, and then Jordan Howard in the 3rd, and I was like, man, that's pretty strong. I'm not all the way familiar with the scoring, but I was wondering how do you get those 3 running backs back to back like that?
Well, the part of it is with the tight end premium scoring, where tight ends do get 1.5 points per catch in this format. That sometimes will push some of these receivers and running backs down a little bit. I will say, and Dave, you can comment on this. Does Jordan Howard? Do you normally see him go in the middle of the 3rd? I normally see him, closer to the turn. I don't know if maybe he slipped a little bit.
Yeah, it seems late for him for sure.
And then Christian McCaffrey. I've seen him go, potentially in the early 2nd. It was kind of like a perfect storm. Kamara, that's above where he goes. But it was kind of like a perfect storm for Elliot Chris to form those 3 running backs to start off. Has anything really surprised you thus far?
Well, yeah,
any surprise picks that you've seen?
I'm really struggling with Kamara as my number 1 pick overall. So that whole lineup of running backs really kind of rattled me. So if I'm in the middle of the 1st round and the money's on the line, I'm wondering, man, Kamara, can I trust him as my number 1 pick, right? How do you guys feel about that in a major draft when the money's on the line?
Well, listen, we got to get back to the live draft coverage. I certainly want to thank you for calling in so much, and we will talk about this a little bit as far as Kamara being your first-round pick. I think I could be on board with it, Dave, but my proclivity for Saquon Barkley is going to trump my Kamara love. So I think for me, I would, if Barkley was off the board, I would certainly consider Kamara.
I would take Kamara over Barkley.
I know you would. But in the middle of the first round,
yeah, it's a nice pick.
You're fine with that. Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
Very productive.
Yeah,
good pass catching back. High floor. It's good.
Tyreek Hill, the pick after Jordan Howard. Tyreek Hill goes to the FFPC Joe combo. It's Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs drafting there with Tyreek Hill. Jimmy Graham, so Sigmund Bloom doubles up on tight end in the first 3 rounds. He gets Graham at the 308. And then Mark Ingram goes off the board right after that. So Mark Ingram to Chad Castorina. The first of 4 running backs that finish off the 3rd round. It is Joe Mixon. It is Kenyon Drake and Alex Collins. Mixon to Rebar, Drake to Azell, and Collins to Josh Hornsby there at the end. So I thought Collins was maybe a little bit of a reach last night to Howard Bender, but he's still going in the 3rd round tonight. He goes at the 312. Alex Collins as the number 1 running back to Josh ADHD, Fantasy ADHD. That's Josh Hornsby from Fantasy Insiders. He takes him there. I think the story here, and I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm picking at nits a little bit, is Joe Mixon really slipped tonight. I did not expect him to go as late as he did in this draft. He falls all the way to the 310 pick, and that's as late as, boy, that's probably as late as I've seen him since like February or March. And this is, by the way, I don't know if Rich Rebar planned on starting running back. I wonder how much of it was, oh my gosh, Joe Mixon is still out here at the 310. I got to grab him even though I already have 2 running backs on my team, and I'm just going to load up with the talent and the opportunity and perhaps a big step forward that Joe Mixon might be taking this year. So certainly that was good value for him. In FFPC Best Ball ADP, Mixon usually goes at the 301. He falls 9 spots tonight, Dave.
Wow, that's big. That's Mixon, big value. And that early in the draft, that's a really big value. And he got Hunt. That's another thing, those 2 big values, like you said.
When you look at the start for Rebar, if that was your team with Fournette and Hunt and Mixon staring you in the face, would you just throw caution in the wind and say, positions be damned, Mixon's too good of a value here. I got to get him, even though he is my number 3 running back.
But yeah, in a best ball format, too, taking 3 running backs in a row is a pretty decent strategy. You want to have really good running backs, and they tend to go faster. So I would have no problem at all going 3 straight backs.
And obviously in this format, you kind of, the chalk play is to load up on running backs early too. So it's not like you're doing something insanely crazy that is probably not going to work out. This has been a proven strategy for a lot of people that has worked out, especially in the pros versus Joe's competition. So that is round 3. Let's get to round 4 as it has just completed. Amari Cooper to Josh Hornsby at the 401. Adam Thielen off the board at the 402. Stephon Diggs, another pick I really like at the 403 for Rich Rebar. I think that makes a lot of sense for him to go Diggs there, even as, it's his number 1, but Diggs is usually going at the end of the 3rd, and he gets him in the early 4th. Derrick Henry, the 3rd running back selected by the FFPC Joe Chad Castorina to pair with both Mark Ingram and Melvin Gordon. Demaryius Thomas is the first receiver chosen by Sigmund Bloom. Have you noticed that in the pros versus Joe's, I feel like when Demaryius Thomas goes off the board, who's ever drafting him, it's usually their first receiver. And I don't know why that is, because usually and you probably already have 1 or 2 or 3 running backs and a tight end or 2 tight ends like Sigmund Bloom has here. You get the consistency of Demaryius Thomas catching balls from Case Keenum.
You don't want you don't want the uncertainty of Josh Gordon or the second-year uncertainty of Juju Smith-Schuster. You just don't really have that. I don't have that same decent feeling. You can put Demaryius Thomas in for a good 10 to 15 points almost every week, assuming he stays healthy.
I can't remember if I asked you this or not, but I think you just answered it. If you were faced with a decision where you're taking a receiver and you've narrowed it down to Demaryius Thomas and Juju Smith-Schuster, you're taking Thomas, right?
Well, it depends on my team. I'm kind of close. We already talked about Thomas last night, so we can move on to someone else.
Move on, okay. So I own Demaryius Thomas in too many dynasties, so I'm always trying to talk up my guys here and get their trade value up. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, Juju's worth a whole hell of a lot more in dynasty trades.
This is well, no, it's not that I'm comparing the 2 in dynasty. I just want to get my guys' names out there So people are, they just get them in their mind. It's all a mind game where I'm trying to get people thinking that these guys.
Seems like a waste of your time.
You would be surprised, my friend.
Yeah, you know what? I would be surprised.
You would be
I'd
surprised.
Be surprised.
The aforementioned Juju Smith-Schuster is the third receiver selected by the FFPC Joes. Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs right in the middle tonight at the 306. That's their third receiver. 4 straight running backs for Elliott Christ. He keeps pushing that running back button. He can't help himself. After going Kamara, McCaffrey, Howard, he gets Rashad Penny
as
his number 4 running back there. So, have you ever started off a best? I know you don't do as many best balls as you used to, but have you ever started off with 4 straight running backs before? I know I have.
I have not because I've never played in an FFPC format. I've never had the opportunity.
Where you could start 4 running backs.
Yeah. I've been in a few leagues, in dynasty leagues, where I could do that, but they weren't best ball. So I usually played more in the WCOF type old school format. So no.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember once at WCOF main event, some dude took 5 running backs in a row, and that was where you can only start 3 running backs. And I mean, people were gawking at that board, just laughing and yucking it up.
And that person was Chad Schroeder, and he's the best ever.
Nope, it was someone who probably did miserably and never played.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I did, I was drafting this wasn't a best ball. This was a live classic, like a 20-rounder in Kentucky, and the guy from the 1 spot took, same format, you can only start 3 running backs. He started off his draft with 6 straight running backs. 6 straight running backs. And after he took the 5th one, I'm like, I'm screwing up. This guy knows something.
Well, it's such a especially in those leagues where you have to start 3 wide receivers. Your first wide receiver is going to be wide receiver like 45, right? Or 40-something receiver pick. And your third wide receiver is going to be like wide receiver 65 or 70.
And that's a guy that you got to count on every week.
Yeah, so it's awful because you can't. There's no way you can get that many like lucky wide receiver picks late. You might be able to scrape up 1, but you're not getting 3 or 4. It's just not going to happen. So it's a terrible move.
So after Rashad Penny goes Josh Gordon, middle of the 4th round. Again, people don't seem to be super concerned.
Yeah, not moving him down.
With what's going on with him. And I don't know if I would be either. I know we talked about this before the show.
2 rounds.
You would not be taking him in the 4th. You would be taking him in the 6th.
He's in the 6th for me.
But he is the number 1 receiver for Richard Beard, the FFPC Joe, drafting in the 5 spot tonight. Lamar Miller is the number 1 running back for Kevin O'Brien after he went with 3 straight receivers. You could do a lot worse than Lamar Miller as your number 1 running back when you pike 3 receivers in front of him.
I don't know about a lot worse.
You could do a lot worse. In the 5th round, or 4th round, excuse me.
You could do somewhat worse.
Brandon Cooks is the selection right after Lamar Miller. Brandon Cooks, that is Derek Brinkman's selection there. He is the first of 3 receivers to complete round 4. Allen Robinson to Dan Sanyo from Dynasty League Football. And then Larry Fitzgerald, the 3rd receiver chosen by Stephen Michaud as he adds to his receiver core Baldwin, Hilton, and Fitzgerald. I really like that.
Those receivers really slipped because of all the running backs that have been going on. And from the 6th pick on, 6 to 12, there's a lot of running backs that are gone.
Spree at last, Dave, one of our FFPC favorites in the chat room, says that Chris is making a statement. He's a really smart guy, thinking he has a plan. And you say, well, what are you talking about? Well, let's get to what happened in the 5th round with Elliott Christ.
I don't have a real big problem with this. I mean, in this, it's different. You can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see what it is.
Stephen Michaud kicks things off. This is the first time that Aaron Rodgers does not go at the 601 in the PBJ format this year. Aaron Rodgers goes at the 501 tonight as Stephen Michaud's putting together a nice little core there. Rodgers, Gurley, Baldwin, Fitz, Hilton. That's a lot of fantasy goodness there.
Yeah,
I know you wouldn't have taken Rodgers there, but
I wish he hadn't done that.
You could make the argument that he has the number 1 quarterback and the number 1 running back on the same roster.
Yeah, you can make that argument. It's probably true.
Yeah, no.
Whoop-de-doo.
I think you're poo-pooing that a little bit too much. There's something to be said for that.
My opinion, there's no reason to reach a full round for Rodgers when there's many really good quarterbacks that are still going to be available later. But that's okay. If he wants to do that, it's his team, and he's welcome to do so.
I get that, but he's not probably coming back to him.
Right. Instead, the other 20 really good quarterbacks that are available,
unless you're in love with Rodgers,
will be coming back to him.
There's a lot of people out there that think he is going to be the MVP this year, and if he does have an MVP season, maybe it makes a big difference as far as quarterbacks go.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
You've been hearing it all over.
Yeah.
All these people saying he's going to be the MVP.
All the little, not well.
I don't think I've heard anyone say that.
Oh, come on. You've got to be kidding me. You go to Vegas right now and tell me who the odds-on favorite to be is named the MVP this year is. I bet it's Rodgers.
He very well could be the so-called favorite, but I guarantee you that no one's talking. You're making it seem like people are talking about it.
Okay.
No one gives a crap.
No, they do give a crap, and I'm going to tell you where they give a crap. If you go to
Twitter,
if you go to ESPN or CBS where they're talking about football in like a non-fantasy sense, there's plenty of people on there talking about, hey, who's this year's MVP? Who's this year's Coach of the Year? Who's this year's Offensive Rookie of the Year? Yeah, the prognosticators out there. So don't tell me that nobody is into this. Okay, maybe they're not fantasy people, but.
If you said that, there's been a few whispers about this, maybe it'd be a little bit instead of
more than whispers.
Their bombastic statement about Rodgers being this. There's news stories and horns going off talking about Rodgers being the shoo-in for MVP.
I didn't say shoo-in. I did not say shoo-in. I have my birds all over sports Twitter.
You do. You know what? You're paying more attention to me, Buffy.
Jarvis Landry at the 5:02 after NFL MVP frontrunner Aaron Rodgers. Golden Tate right after him. Golden Tate to Derek Brinkman. Jay Ajayi is Kevin O'Brien's second running back chosen tonight. His real-life teammate, Alshon Jeffrey, is the second receiver chosen by Richard Beard as he pairs him with Josh Gordon.
Sorry to interrupt. That seems early for Jeffrey compared to where he's been going. I think Jeffrey's been slipping, but not in this draft.
Slipping, falling, he can't get up, but I can tell you he goes at the 5'10" in FFPC best balls normally.
Okay.
So
I thought I saw him going in the 6th in a couple of those drafts.
He might have.
Yeah.
That's entirely possible. But even if he didn't, you're right. That is about a half round of early, whatever you want to call it. Darius Geis. This is the pick I wanted to talk about. Elliot Christ says, all right, I think I'm going to start off my draft with the running back.
What's Geis' ADP? That's really late for Geis.
Hold on, I'm going to get to it in a second.
All right, sorry.
So Chris says, I'm going to go running back for my first pick. You know what? I'm going to go old school. I'm going to do the meat and potatoes fantasy football of the 90s, running back.
Oh.
All right? I can flex out. Normally a lot of people like to flex out these high-volume running backs. I'm going to get another one in the third. Oh, wait a minute. This is FFPC. I heard those guys on the high-stakes fantasy football are just saying, you can flex out 2 running backs. So I can start 4 running backs every week. I'm taking Rashad Penny in the 4th round. Gets to the 5th round, and he says, I'm going to have the best bench running back in the league, Darius Geis. Running back.
So let me go back to the Aaron Rodgers pick, and this is why this kind of gets back to that whole thing. When you send it in, take 3 running backs, you have Chris already take 4 running backs. Running backs are being pushed up a bit at the later part of the draft. However, teams 11 and 12 only have 1. And then also team 4, after the 4th round, only had 1 running back. So by not taking his second running back in the 5th round, there's all these running backs that are going to go before he picks again. There's not many running backs available anymore. So to me, it's like by not getting that second back when there's such an opportunity, you know that there's a shortage of them. That's a missed opportunity in my opinion. That's kind of what I'm getting at there. And then Chris takes Geis, which couldn't have been predicted. But as you see, there's going to be guys who have their second running backs are going to be god-awful. It's kind of what happened last night with the tight ends. There were about 3 or 4 teams that had god-awful tight ends because of the guys that stacked tight ends. There was those 3 teams that stacked tight ends. Because of that, 3 teams had awful tight ends, and they cannot recover from that.
Well, I'm looking ahead a little bit here. Only at the time he made the Geis pick, there were 5 tight ends off the board. So he makes the Geis pick, and then 5 more tight ends go off the board before he has the opportunity to pick again. I would ask you, hey, do you think he'd like to have that pick back and go with the tight end instead? But clearly, when he did in the 6th round, probably didn't matter to him.
He may just be punting tight ends, but in retrospect, if tight end has some importance to you, then yeah, you would have wanted to grab one there.
So Darius Geis, the 5th straight running back drafted by Elliot Christ from the Quant Edge. Everybody going to be checking out the Quant Edge after this, for sure.
I might be.
Yeah.
I like it.
Delaney Walker is the selection right after Geis. Delaney Walker goes to Caleb Alcorn, Sean Isaacs there at the 5:07. Dion Lewis, the second running back for Sigmund Bloom, and then a trio of tight ends off the board. Evan Engram goes to Chad Castorina. Jordan Reed goes to Rich Rebar. Kyle Rudolph to Don Azell. Sammy Watkins completes round 5 as the number 3 receiver drafted by Josh Hornsby from Fantasy Insiders. I totally missed this before. You asked me what Geis's ADP was, and
I was wondering.
Yeah, I forgot to check it. 309.
Yeah, do you see that? I thought that was a big discount.
Was there news on Darius Geis that you and I missed?
Nope.
Hey, in the chat, by the way, Shane Hallam, we have two chat rooms going on right now. I don't know if you know this. We have a chat room on YouTube and we have a chat room on Blog Talk. Shane Hallam is carrying on conversations in both of them right now. So if anybody in the chat room can tell us...
Shane's capable of doing that. He's a smart guy.
Tell us the latest on Darius Geis, if there was something reported today that he fell all the way to the 506. We'd certainly love to hear it.
So 506, and he usually goes at the 309.
309.
It's like a 21-pick discount early in the draft.
Now, that's the guy we should be asking, like, okay, maybe he was looking at a receiver or a tight end there, but Geis staring him in the face. I got to grab him here.
Penny in the 4th round was pretty cheap, too. I bet you know what I bet he was thinking? Elliott was probably like, when he took Penny in the 4th, he's like, all right, I'm taking Penny or Geis. He sat there and he took like 30 seconds, 40 seconds. I'll take Penny. And then Geis came around for him. He's like, you know what, screw it, I'm taking Geis too.
Penny, his ADP is normally the 403, so, I mean, there was value there, but it wasn't like, kick you in the ass value like Darius Geis. That was, I mean, you and I don't even like Geis all that much, and I'd be all over him in the 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind him that much. I mean, I don't think he's going to catch a ton of passes, but I think he's a pretty talented bat.
Yeah. And if Washington is playing with the lead in games, I mean, that's certainly going to help his cause as well.
5th round, that is, and I don't understand. I mean, pick number 1 instead of Rodgers, could have taken Geis. That might have been the way to go.
Could have been. Trey Burton leads off the 6th round here to Josh Hornsby as his number 2 tight end. And then Royce Freeman, the number 2 running back for Don Azell, goes off the board at the 602 tonight. Rich Rebar gets the suspended Julian Edelman as his number 2 receiver. Would you be concerned about that if your number 2 receiver is suspended for the first 4 games of the season?
After the 6th round, I would be, but we'll see what his team looks like after the 9th and 10th round.
Okay, all right.
He can try and adapt to that a little bit.
Yes. Well, I mean, there's certain guys you can pair with Edelman for certain.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson is the 2nd quarterback off the board tonight, and he is going to Chad Castorina there as his number 1 quarterback. Marshawn Lynch, the 3rd running back drafted by Sigmund Bloom at the 605 tonight to go with Deion Lewis and Dalvin Cook. Sony Michel, the number 2 running back drafted by Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs. To go with Saquon Barkley. So their top 2 running backs are a couple of rookies. I have no problem with that anymore. I'm done with hating on rookie running backs.
Yeah.
They're fine.
That's fine. I like his team name too.
What is it?
Not a Joe, bro.
Not a Joe, bro. Caleb Alcorn, Sean Isaacs. They know what they're doing. They're showing.
Are they from California?
I don't know. You can look that up.
You should.
I'm not looking it up.
You should kind of imitate what a person from California would.
Yeah. I mean, if you were having a conversation with them. And, you say, wow, Sean, Caleb, hell of a pick. Sony Michel, you guys really know what you're doing. Not a Joe, bro. We know what we're doing, man. Something like that, I think it would sound like.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway. Marvin Jones.
Is a really good California.
Marvin.
He's tentative to do it tonight.
I don't. I mean, there could be people from California listening. I don't want to.
They know what they sound like. And
I don't think that they would say that they sound like that.
People from Wisconsin are much more embarrassing than people from California.
I know.
So it's no big deal.
It's part of the reason I don't want to do this show because people actually hear my voice and what I sound like.
They know what you're talking about.
All right. So you look at Elliott Crest there from the Quant Edge. I thought he was going to take a 6th running back, and he goes with Marvin Jones instead.
Are you doing anything?
People listening right now, it sounds like he's trying to make a joke, but this is just what the whole show sounds like.
It sounds the same.
Yeah. So
it sounds like the stats show.
Sounds nothing like that. Marvin Jones ruins the dream of 6 straight running backs as Elliott Chris goes for his number 1 receiver there with Marvin Jones. And then you have Marlon Mack as the 3rd running back drafted by Richard Beard after that. The Colts running back goes to Richard Beard here in the 6th. Randall Cobb, a favorite of Dave Gerzak's. They hang out on the weekends. They love each other, praise each other. Randall Cobb says, hey, Dave, you do a great job running the FFPC. And Dave said, hey, you do a horrible job receiving the football in the NFL.
I would just say, hey, Cobb, good luck. Hope you get that 5th touchdown this year.
In one game. Randall Cobb.
Top over 700 yards, buddy. We'll be all in good hands.
Cobb, by the way, in seasons that Rodgers and him have been healthy for the whole season, he's never finished lower than wide receiver 19.
Wow, that's incredible. What is that's like 2 years?
3 years.
Wow.
That's
That's a huge statistical sample.
That's something. It's significant. It's significant, Dave. Here's
and what's it? They've both been healthy?
Yeah. Here should be my goal this year, to try to get you to draft Randall Cobb in one draft this year.
I'd like to do it.
Oh, come on. See, now you're just throwing your credibility out the window.
Just spite myself. I probably won't.
This team's screwed. I'll take Randall Cobb in the 7th. So Randall Cobb goes to Kevin O'Brien here, the FF engineer.
Rojo with 18 picks of value.
Right, yeah, that is a good pick right there. Ronald Jones is the number 3 running back drafted by Derek Brigman. Le'Veon Bell, LaShawn McCoy, and Ronald Jones paired with all those receivers. We'll have to see what he does at tight end, but that team right now has me saying, right now. I like that. Good job, Derek Brinkman.
I think, though, I mean, you look at, again, in that round, you have Royce Freeman, Marshawn Lynch, Marlon Mack, all go before Ronald Jones. I don't like that. I don't care for that. I disagree with all those. I mean, Michelle, I can kind of see the argument. But, Freeman's not even guaranteed to have the starting job. Ronald Jones has the job.
Does he have the job?
Yeah.
Ronald Jones?
I mean, come on. Peyton Barber.
Hey, listen.
They traded up for him.
I understand that.
Royce Freeman was legitimately still a 3rd-round pick. I know everybody was all gaga about the guy.
Right.
He was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah. I am not sold on any Freeman, Mack, or Jones. I'm not comfortable saying any of them have the job right now.
Well, yeah. I think Ronald Jones has got the. And, they may not say that, but I think he does.
Okay, that's fine. Dirk Ketter didn't trade up for him, by the way. Just letting you know that.
Right, the GM did.
Yeah. Jason Smith, is that his name?
I don't know. Pick what? Pick 40, 41? You don't move up.
No, I think he might have been higher than that, to be honest.
37?
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah.
I mean, you don't do that to not use the player.
No, the GM definitely wants him to be used. That's I think that's clear.
Kevin Costner?
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Dennis Leary is a little bit leery of using Ronald Jones if he were the head coach there. Cam Newton, I think I already said, goes to Dan Sanyo from Dynasty League Football at the 6'11". Michael Crabtree completes the 6th round as the 4th receiver taken by Stephen Michaud. I like that. Michael Crabtree is your number 4 receiver.
Sure.
I mean, it would help to get a tight end on that roster or two, but right now it's pickings are getting a little slim here, Dave. We are through. I'll tell everybody what happened in the 7th round in a second, but we are through 7 rounds here, and by my count, we have 12 tight ends off the board, and 1, 2, 3, 4 teams already have 2 of them.
Yep.
Would you be, if you were in a pros versus Jones draft, would you like to force the issue on tight ends? Is that something you would be doing? I feel like this.
To be honest with you, no, I would not.
You would not.
No, what I would want to do is I would not be one of the people that don't have a tight end. I would not be one of the ones who would want to be pressing it. Like, I would feel comfortable being, like, send it in with Evan Ingram or Don Mazzella with Kyle Rudolph. I'm not saying I like the rest of their teams or anything. Or the guy that has Zach Ertz. Although, whatever. I would be all right with that.
I'm not saying I like their teams, but I like their teams.
But I'm just saying I'm just saying I don't mind their tight end selections where they took them. I mean, the rest of their teams could be awesome or they could be terrible. But I don't want to be the guy that has 2 tight ends. I want to still be getting running backs and receivers. And I want to take a tight end in due course where I'm not totally reaching for that player. But I also don't want to be stuck with no tight end whatsoever and no life preserver after 6 or 7 rounds.
I feel like you might have the approach of not necessarily targeting a top 3 guy at tight end. You might be the type of guy that you've already said in like non-tight end premium formats, you'll go after your 2 or 3 top 15, top 20 tight ends and hope 1 or 2 of them hit. Or just one of them, really.
I'll go for 3. If I don't get one that I like early, I will go for 3 that I think have legitimate upside and hope one of them hits.
And I feel like you would do that in this draft too. It would just happen earlier.
It would. Well, if I take a starting caliber player like an Ingram or a Kyle Rudolph, or if I took Zach Ertz, I wouldn't feel that same need. I would probably want to have a good second one and then a third one that's a flyer.
Right.
But I think if I totally waited, I would probably take like 3. Pretty quickly then after that.
No, I'm with you on that for sure. But for me, like in this format, I would actually try to get an elite tight end, and then I don't want to say I'd ignore it, but I might wait till like 10 are off the board to get my next one.
I mean, it's just so dependent upon where you're picking and what point you get them. Like I think that Josh ADHD did well with Kelsey and Burton. I think that was nice. Kelsey is a good pick. Burton's got some upside. He could actually become a definitely viable starter, but he doesn't really need him per se. And he waited until the 6th round to get him.
Yep, exactly. Let's kick things off with the 7th round and tell you that Steve in the show actually took Chris Thompson, the Washington Redskins running back there, as his number 2 running back. Corey Davis goes at the 7:02 tonight to Dan Sainio, and Jamison Crowder right after that to Derek Brinkman. Now, Corey Davis, Dave, falls to the 7th round. We talked
Why are we talking about him every week?
I just want to bring this up. I know you wouldn't take him in the 6th round. You have the choice here between Crowder and Davis. Are you taking Crowder over Davis?
If I was Dan?
Yeah, if you were Dan. And you're like, I'm taking a receiver here. I've narrowed it down to Corey Davis, the uber-talented, highly pedigreed, breakout candidate, could challenge Aaron Rodgers for MVP this year, Corey Davis, or Jamison Crowder, who left fantasy teams in ruin over the first 8 weeks of last season. Which one would you take?
Yeah, that's hilarious, the way that you're trying to sell me on it.
I'm just presenting facts. The facts, sir. Just the facts.
Yeah, the facts are Drew Brees got picked before Mahomes again.
Spoiler alert.
So, I would take Corey Davis over Crowder, I think. And I
did not expect you to go that way.
Well, I mean,
Are the powers of my persuasion that strong?
No, Corey Davis is a pedigreed player. Crowder is not. He's a decent PPR type player, but he didn't do crap for 8 weeks last year.
Right.
So I could see that. I mean, I know I don't like Corey Davis like he's the best thing in the world, but I don't absolutely hate him.
Well, you absolutely hate him if you don't think he's the best thing in the world. I'll tell you that right now. Signed, Corey Davis fan club president.
Where's Corey Davis' ADP?
Great question. Great question. Yeah, so let's look it up here. In FFPC best balls right now, Corey Davis is actually going at the 7:01, so this is right around where he normally goes.
It does. If it was a main event too, I would definitely take Corey Davis. If being a best ball, which this is, I can see the argument for Crowder. It's kind of close for me actually.
But doesn't the fact? Okay, so talk a little bit about the main event. Which you can sign up for at myffpc.com, $250,000 grand prize, $2 million prize pool.
Yeah, by the way, you don't have to just pay your teams off now. You can actually register for a new team. And you can be your first team. Because you said on your little presentation earlier, you said, hey, pay your teams off or get a second team at a discount.
Yeah, or register.
You could buy your first team.
Here's what I would recommend. Give you the bulky recipe for success over the next 4 hours and 14 minutes. Register your first team, okay? But then take advantage of this multi-team discount and get your second team at $300 off.
Yeah,
I think that is the sharp play.
Pour yourself a huge scotch with ice or without. Get really drunk.
Forget that you signed up for the first team.
Yeah, buy like 5 more teams, and then in the morning you'll have like $8,000 on your credit card.
Yeah.
You'll be hungover, and then don't tell your wife what you did. And have a great time. And draft some teams, and you'll do really well.
And one of those teams will do well, at least one.
Yeah, and then you remodel the kitchen with the money you win from the $250,000, and you buy yourself a Ferrari.
Getting back to the FFPC main event, you said
all because you drank too much scotch tonight.
Right. You said that Davis would probably be your pick there. Talk a little bit about why it would be different in that format than a best ball.
I don't know. I mean, you can make the argument that he's worth taking in a best ball too. He says he should do all that great every week. I don't know. He has more upside than Crowder.
Okay.
So I look at the upside, and I think it's interesting.
The reason I brought it up was because obviously first place gets a 2019 FFPC main event team. Second place does not get anything. So how much of the shooting for the moon, shooting for the stars pick is that there with you're going with the upside?
Well, keep in mind that the team's been talking about Corey Davis this preseason. And as much as I've crapped on Corey Davis, he had a bad rookie season. He didn't even do anything in the combine at all. I think those are red flags. But, I mean, I'm willing to change my opinion. If he goes out and has, 3 for 102 touchdowns in the first preseason game, am I going to just ignore that and be totally stubborn? No, I'm actually willing to take another look at things.
You have to be fungible.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Rankings have to be fungible.
A lot of these websites, they're hesitant to change their rankings very much. And it's like, when things change, they do. So feel free to move around.
Exactly. Jamison Crowder, the pick right after that to Derek Brinkman. Rex Burkhead, the number 3 running back drafted by Kevin O'Brien, followed by Jack Doyle, another team doubling up with tight end. Richard Beard gets Jack Doyle to go with Greg Olsen. Chris Hogan right after that, the number 2 receiver drafted by Elliott Chris. And then George Kittle in the 7th round tonight to Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs I want to say the California duo, even though I have no idea if they're from California.
I'm going to look, actually. Balky, I'm looking.
You look that up, and I'll tell everybody what happened in the rest of the 7th round. Pierre Garcon, Devin Funchess, and Manny Sanders. Boom, boom, boom. Right after that, 3 straight receivers. Bloom takes Garcon. Funchess goes to Chad Castorina, and then Emmanuel Sanders, of course, to Rich Rebar as his number 3 receiver. Deshaun Watson is the number 4 quarterback selected tonight, Watson, to Don Azell with the penultimate pick of the 7th round, and then Tevin Coleman, the number 2 running back for Josh Hornsby there at the 7-12. That is the 7th round, ladies and gentlemen. You're looking at 3 tight ends, a quarterback, only 3 running backs in that round, and the rest were all receivers. So it's starting to vary up a little bit as these drafters are looking more at maybe filling needs on their team rather than best player available at this point, not wanting to get caught with their pants down, which hopefully doesn't happen with any of these teams tonight, or in real life, quite frankly. Nobody wants to see that. Anyway, Dave, do you know where Alcorn and Isaacs reside?
I do.
All right.
It's not CA, it's CO.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're a mile-high salute, baby.
And both of those
Pot
states,
is legal.
notorious weed-smoking states. So
great.
maybe they do.
They know how to draft quarterbacks, this team. Just wait till you talk about their quarterbacks.
Well, there's a little bit of mini quarterback run coming up in round 9. Let's recap round 8 first. Will Fuller to Josh Hornsby as his number 4 receiver. Tom Brady goes to Don Azell. So he goes back-to-back quarterbacks there with Watson and Brady. Certainly some definite upside there. Inexplicably, once again, Drew Brees goes ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I can't explain it. I have no idea what's going on, but Brees goes to Rich Rebar from Roto World. And I think it's clear who knows more about fantasy football, Rich Rebar or Eric Balkman, and it ain't the latter. So congratulations, Rich Rebar, on that Drew Brees selection as his number 1 quarterback there. Duke Johnson off the board. Right after that to Chad Castorina, and then Tariq Cohen, the number 4 running back drafted by Sigmund Bloom. Robert Woods is the 4th receiver taken by Alcorn and Isaacs, Colorado's own, pride of Colorado. Devontae Parker is the 3rd straight receiver drafted by Elliott Chris. Here's what he's doing, Dave. He's you have what's called a station eater. Do you know what station eaters are? For meals, ingesting meals. You have
Maybe I don't.
You have your mashed potatoes, you have your steak, you have your asparagus, and people eat each thing in its entirety before moving on to the next one. It's called station eating.
Is it?
Elliott Chris is station drafting right now. He's going to draft all the running backs he needs, then he's going to draft all the receivers he needs, and then he'll either go tight end or quarterback or whatever and fill in the blanks after that. He is the station drafter.
That's interesting. Good job. I like that too. Do you do that? How do you eat?
That's a good question. You don't
know how you eat?
I think I station eat more often than not. If I'm going out for like a big meal, we'll go to Joe's Stone Crab.
Right. So if you went out for like a really nice meal,
I will not station eat then.
Oh, they serve stuff in courses a little bit too, though.
Okay, well,
but you're right. But then they'll have like the Madagascar shrimp, but then they'll have the proteins and the
starches and what have you.
Yeah, they'll have like broccoli and then whatever that potato onion mix is, which is really good.
The au gratin?
No, it's the Lyonnaise potato.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
God, it's embarrassing that I know the name.
No, it's not embarrassing.
Lyonnaise potato, it's so good.
So with that,
so I'll do that too. I'll kind of combine them.
But like if I'm making stuff at home, I will usually station eat, and that's the way I roll.
Very interesting.
You know what? Let's just.
I'm sure the listeners are.
I was going to say, let's not talk about the draft. Let's just talk more about station eating and meals. I think that's what people really care about.
So do you like the breadsticks over at Olive Garden or the?
I always
do you like the Red Lobster better? The biscuits?
Oh God, they're so good. But you know what? I feel like sometimes I have to get a shrimp cocktail when I go to Red Lobster, just so I don't mow those Cheddar Bay biscuits. You know, I need to be eating something.
Yeah, doing something well, because everyone else in the party is always eating the Cheddar Bay biscuits, right?
Yeah, can we get some more biscuits, please?
Like, you people should be embarrassed of yourselves, you pigs.
Well, I'm not going to go that far, but it's just...
I mean, like, those things have so much fat in them that's bleeding through the napkin. All the oil and everything is bleeding through the napkin. You guys are eating like there's no tomorrow, and then you order more of them.
Yeah.
Right. Save it for the booze. Go ahead.
Anyway, moving on. Thankfully. So Robert Woods was the selection to Alcorn and Isaacs. Devontae Parker to Elliott Chris. Marquise Goodwin is the 3rd receiver selected by Richard Beard, and then Kerryon Johnson goes off the board tonight at the 8:09. Kerryon Johnson to Kevin O'Brien.
I feel like none of these players play Dynasty.
As the 4th running back.
This is the anti-Dynasty draft because the Dynasty players draft all these rookie running backs early. These guys are just letting them fall to God knows when. Whatever.
Yeah, that's sort of been the staple of this draft thus far. Ronald Jones going at falling to the 6'10", Rashad Penny, I mean, say what you will about where he normally goes, but tonight he fell to the 407. Darius Geis at the 507.
These are the people that have jobs, Bulky.
Yeah.
They're not dicking around all preseason, like looking at, going to watching the combine, watching the draft, doing all this stuff. These people have jobs. They have real lives. They don't pay attention to this stuff as much.
Yes, apparently. Carson Wentz, the number one quarterback drafted by Derek Brinkman in the 8th round here. And then completing the 8th round is O.J. Howard to Dan Sainio. And then Carlos Hyde is the number 3 running back to Steve Michaud. And, okay, so he went, let's just get into round 9 because he went back-to-back rounds here. David Njoku leads off round 9. I think that's good value there, too, especially for how the tight ends have been going in this draft. I think getting David Njoku at the 901 is good work.
Yeah, that was solid for sure. Actually, it was good because there was the fear that he wouldn't get somebody that has that upside, and Njoku definitely does. Back-to-back
Packers after that, Packers running backs to be specific, as Aaron Jones goes at the 902, Jamal Williams right after that to Derek Brinkman at the 903. And then a little bit of a quarterback run here. And clearly the last one selected was the best one. Kirk Cousins goes to Kevin O'Brien, Phillip Rivers to Richard Beard, Matthew Stafford to Elliott Crisp. And, we talked about a lot of steals in this draft thus far. There's Guys, Ronald Jones. I think for me the one that stands out is Patrick Mahomes here in the 9th round to Alcorn and Isaacs there. That was a good job by them nabbing their number 1 quarterback, who, quite frankly, might be the number 1 quarterback in fantasy. Let's just call a spade here. Mahomes is going to be the man this year. Robbie Anderson, the 3rd receiver drafted by Sigmund Bloom. Cameron Brate, the 2nd tight end selected by Chad Castorina here at the 909. Cameron Brate. And then Cooper Kupp, the number 4 receiver by Rich Rebar. Rich Rebar gets him at the 910. Pair of quarterbacks to finish off the round. Don Azell, Ben Roethlisberger, Josh Hornsby, Matt Ryan. What do you make of Azell going quarterback in rounds 7, 8, and 9? And at that point, nobody else had 2 quarterbacks on their roster. He now has 3.
I think it was, a wasted pick with Roethlisberger and pretty needless. I think he should have drafted a receiver because he only has 3. I know he drafted 3 fairly early, but he only does have 3. His number 2 running back's not even a starter. So, yeah, he needed somebody else. I actually would have passed on – I would have taken either Brady or Watson probably there, and I would have not taken one coming back around either. I would have been – I think, if you had got rid of Brady out of there,
right.
There's nothing wrong with Brady, and taking a different position, you'd have Watson and Roethlisberger, and you'd still be fine.
Clearly, you're going to have the best quarterbacks in this league, clearly.
Yeah, he will. Congratulations. He's going to have a lot worse running backs and receivers thanks to taking so many quarterbacks early.
Well, I mean, the good part for him is he did get he started off his draft with 2 uber-talented receivers who should put up huge numbers this year. Thielen as a number 3 is fine, but then he did ignore the position. We'll have to see how he fills in the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, Don's a great player, and he could be very confident in his ability to draft running backs and receivers late, but I just felt like that was not quite necessary to go quite that crazy at quarterback. Especially when you're getting he's now short at receiver, he's now short at running back, and he's now short at tight end. And you only have to make one pick at a time, so now what?
What's the most difficult position to draft late in a best ball? If I narrow it down to running backs, receivers, and tight ends, what's the most difficult position to, if you're caught short at one of those positions, what's the most difficult one to fill in?
And actually get production?
And get production in this format.
I think tight end's really tough because tight ends get pushed up so much. It's just tough to draft a tight end number 30 and hope you're going to get something out of it.
But then at the same time, you don't want to overkill at the start of the draft, as you were alluding to earlier. You don't want to.
I do think spacing them out to some extent, if possible, makes some sense.
It's an art, Dave. There's no science to this. It's an absolute art to get the tight ends at the right spot, and that's what makes it.
It's tough to get good receivers late too. That actually, you can get receivers that amount to 3 for 30 every week, but that's not all that good.
But I mean, in a best ball format, if you can get those big play guys after round 14, round 15.
3 for 30 guy is not a big play guy.
Well, I mean, clearly you don't want to get the guy that's consistently getting 3 for 30, but he's not going to get 3 for 30 every week.
The problem is, I'm convinced that the whole big play guy thing is so overstated.
Okay.
And also, there's no big play guys going out there in the 17th round that are going to all of a sudden go 9 for 150 and 2 touchdowns. They're not. That's Odell Beckham. You might have a guy who goes 1 for 70 and a touchdown, twice in the season, congratulations. Maybe he starts. You got a 12 out of him or 13 or whatever. It's not. They're not all over the place. There's not that much out there.
But they're out there.
Will Fuller. I mean, for example, Will Fuller goes. Where do you go here? The 801. That's your big play receiver type guy.
Well, I wasn't really necessarily. I mean, to me,
Sean Jackson, fine. Where's he going to go? In the 13? 12?
I don't know. Maybe even later. But I'm just saying, 8th round is not where I'm talking about like getting value late. Like I'm talking about like late.
But I'm talking about actual big play receivers. That's where they go. They go in the 8th and 9th round.
All right. So in your opinion, that is overrated, and that is not the key to victory in this. You would go the other way and give me the consistent guys in best ball, even if they aren't going to be catching like 80-yard bombs.
I have no problem with consistent players in best ball. You just need to get points every week. I mean, there's not a lot of players that are getting it at 30 and 40-point weeks. There just aren't, and they're going to be going in the top 4 or 5 rounds. You're not going to find those guys in the 12th, 13th, 14th rounds unless you get incredibly, you have an incredibly great draft. Alvin Kamara last year was a good example of a player that you had a really good pick, whether it's fortunate or smart or both, that turned out really well. But that was a running back. It's not a receiver or a tight end.
Well, can I tell you a receiver that I hit on late in one of my drafts?
Sure, go ahead.
In actually a best ball format, Juju Smith-Schuster was going super late last year.
You actually drafted Schuster.
Oh yeah, it was a best ball. So I mean, everybody got drafted.
That makes sense.
But I'm just saying, like they're out there.
Yeah, because he was a waiver guy until like week 9 or so last year. Yeah. We did tout him earlier.
It was. We
were touting Schuster.
It was a fun league to check because like.
I bet it was actually.
The first couple, because like I drafted it early and I wasn't really paying attention to it, and then it was fun to check like, oh yeah. I got Smith-Schuster on this team. Right, this is great. It's fantastic.
That's
I always liked that when we had my co-manager and me. We had on Jalen Richard a couple of years ago. Was like one of our last picks. And then I don't know if you remember this, but that year Richard had like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown, or maybe it was Dwayne Washington. I can't remember. It was one of the backup Raiders running backs. And I'm like, sweet, he's starting for us this week. But I didn't notice it until after Monday Night Football. I'm like, that's great. This is going to be a great team, and it really wasn't. But it's always fun checking that.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's really fun is that, our buddies Kurt and Leroy, they're friends of ours, they play FFPC. They usually play FFPC Ds.
Yeah.
I think, was it last year they drafted a guy who was on IR from...
Bruce Ellington?
Yeah, Bruce Ellington.
Yeah.
So we made fun of them for that.
Yep.
They generally will draft a kicker that they're not sure if he's playing or not.
Right, yeah.
And so what happens, that's happened a couple times to them now, the kicker they drafted was not on a team, but by halfway through the season,
he was
on a team.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are like the luckiest guys.
Yep.
Personally, I think they should move to auction. I don't think their GE is good for them anymore.
Wow,
the best ball.
That remains to be seen. Former guest of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour and a guy who's won a ton of cash. Former actually FFPC main event champion Don Metter. When we had him on the show, or maybe it was the road of his High Stakes Lowdown. I can't remember what I was talking about, but he'll do high stakes best balls. He will draft it, and he tells me he doesn't even check it all season. Literally all season.
Whole thing. Yeah.
He'll do the whole, and then he'll start after the season's over. He'll check to see. And I mean, there was one. It was like a 1250 one that he drafted live. Like, 1250. Let's see how I did in this one. Oh, I had this guy and this guy. I bet I did pretty good. Oh, hey, I won. 15 grand or 12 grand or whatever it was, 10 grand that he won. Didn't even realize it until then. Wasn't even following it throughout the season.
I think he's a vice president like Smith Barney or something. He's rich.
But still, well, I mean, you're drafting the team. Wouldn't you want to follow? I mean, part of the enjoyment of fantasy is following your team every week.
He's selling people bomb ladders. He's busy all week.
Yeah, I guess. Where do we leave off here? I don't
know. Who cares?
No, everybody cares. We don't want to leave people hanging here. So we talked about the 9th round. Let's get to the 10th round. The 10-01 with C.J. Anderson to Josh Hornsby as his number 3 running back, trying to fill in the cracks there. It's a team that he is going to need some running back help on for sure. Isaiah Crowell goes to Don Azell right after that. Pair of receivers, Kenny Stills to Rich Rebar, and then Marquise Lee to Chad Castorina there. Alex Smith, the number 1 quarterback drafted by Sigmund Bloom in the 10th round, the 10:05 to be specific. The third head of that ugly RBBC in Green Bay is Ty Montgomery, and he goes to Alcorn and Isaacs at the 10:06 tonight. Andrew Luck pairs with Matthew Stafford as Elliott Chris. I'm telling you, man, station drafting. 6 straight running backs, 3 straight receivers, now 2 straight quarterbacks. We'll see if when he starts filling in the tight ends. But
wait till dessert.
That's what he's kicker the dessert. So what is defense the grasshopper? the after dinner drink.
Yeah.
The Sambuca.
The port wine.
What's the other one? Sambuca and the other I can't think of the name. Drambuie. That's the other one that I was trying to think of. Andrew Luck to Elliot Chris there. Alan Hearns is the number 4 receiver drafted by Richard Beard here in the 10th round. Austin Safarian-Jenkins is Kevin O'Brien's number 1 tight end as he waited until round 10 to draft his first tight end. Jared Goff is the second quarterback off the board to Derek Brinkman there. His name used to be Jared Goff. Then he went to Ireland and they called it Goff.
Without the L.
Yeah, without the L.
Ted Knight, rest in peace.
Thank you. Sterling Shepard to Dan Sainio as his number 4 receiver. And then Eric Ebron completes round 10 as he is the second tight end off the board to Stephen Michaud. So now as we look at how these tight ends are shaping up after 10 rounds of drafting action, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. Half the league has 2 tight ends after round 10. It's a have and have not situation right now for these tight ends. Do you think, we've seen the tight ends, they didn't go as crazy as they did last night, but you look at Sigmund Bloom's team where he has Gronk and Graham used first and third round picks on him. Do you think, seeing the flow now, he would have liked to go a different direction there, or do you think he's happy with getting that big-time tight end production early?
He may be happy with it, but I think I know what you're saying, and I think I would have, were I him, I would have let Graham then go and gotten someone else. I mean, in retrospect, you can look back on it and say, or even, taking Graham in the third and not having taken Gronk. So I get it.
And Sigmund Bloom, by the way, I know he's won at least, Darren Armani could probably
he's had success.
He's won at least 1 Pros versus Joe's League. He might have won 2, or maybe even more than that, quite frankly, I don't know. But he knows what he's doing. And I don't really think he's ever changed his philosophy on believing in elite tight ends. It seems like this has been his strategy in the past when it's worked out for him as well. For any of the haters out there that want to say, the tight ends are overvalued in the FFPC, it's a gimmick. Well, yes, it's a gimmick, and it's a fun one.
It's not a gimmick. The thing is, FFPC drafts are very unpredictable. You have other drafts more like the WCOF format, and it's just ABC drafting. It's like the receivers go early, they go crazy, and then the running backs kind of go. You wait on quarterback, you wait on tight end, blah, blah, blah. It's just very boring. Here you have to actually be thinking on your feet, and it's a dynamic type of draft.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying with FFPC drafts there. It's they're definitely different than what you're normally accustomed to seeing from your basement leagues and any other league you might join.
That uses basement league type rules.
Yeah. Jameis Winston is the second quarterback drafted by Stephen Michaud as he pairs Winston with Rodgers there as his second quarterback. Marcus Mariota pairs with Cam Newton for Dan Sainio as he gets him at the 11:02. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Brinkman's third quarterback. Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo. A lot of youthful energy there at quarterback for Brinkman.
I don't think I would take Winston over Mariota, Garoppolo, or Prescott, actually.
I would definitely take Mariota and Garoppolo over Winston. Prescott, I think I'd still rather have Winston there, even with the suspension.
Prescott, I know no one likes him, but he's been a top he's been in the NFL 2 years. He's been a top 12 quarterback both years. And Dez has sucked. Dez was terrible last year, so you lose Dez, big deal. He has no one to throw it to. I don't know who he's going to throw it to. I have no idea.
Well,
but he keeps on putting up numbers.
Hearns, Gallup, Elliott.
I know. Those are good nobodies.
Blake Jarwin.
But somebody might become a somebody by the end of the season.
You never know. I just saw a blurb, I think, on Roto World today that he was working out with Quarterback Academy, John Beck specifically, and obviously taking this job seriously and wants to take a step forward. The other thing that we need to not forget when it comes to Dak Prescott, he's got 2 pretty talented legs under him too that can always help. If you ever have a quarterback on your fantasy roster and he's maybe not the greatest through the air, man, you get, as long as he can run, he can cover up a lot of warts for you at the position.
I think the important thing about Prescott is that he keeps his hands to himself when he gets in an Uber. So his hands are important as well.
Yeah, you don't need to continually rip on Jameis Winston every opportunity.
His name is Seamus, and yes, I do.
Charles Clay right after Jimmy Garoppolo to Kevin O'Brien, Rashard Matthews to Richard Beard. That is an underrated skill. you don't hear too many people talking about keeping hands to themselves in Ubers as being part of being a pedigreed quarterback. But clearly, we are living in a day and age when that is crucial and it is key. I mean, to keeping a job in the NFL.
Why didn't Winston just drive home drunk like everybody else does?
Yeah, we don't need to get in that either.
I'm just kidding, but it's funny because he actually took the Uber, but then he was probably drunk, right? He didn't drive himself home drunk, and then he takes Uber and he still screws it up.
Uber should have I need to, you can put some sort of block on your phone from drunk texting your ex at 1 a.m. or midnight or whatever. They need to have somehow an Uber I need a ride. I need a male driver only. Only male drivers. And non-attractive male drivers, so I can't get anything mixed up, because I don't know how drunk I am. So I think that's the key. That's the next evolution of Uber, to just tailor the driver.
Fully secured backseat.
Yeah.
Separated from the front.
Yes, I need a
ride, and I'm dangerous.
Uber, it should be like Uber 911, where it's just a cop car comes and it doesn't, it's
no ticket, just take me home.
No ticket. You didn't do anything wrong, but I know I won't do anything wrong if I'm sitting in the back of a cop car.
Right.
I think that's $1 million idea right now.
Sure.
Dave. Do we know any app people that we can, of all the people we've had on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour? Didn't we just have a Silicon Valley guy on? I thought we did.
Like a VC guy?
Yeah. I'm telling you, we need to get hooked up with these people. We might as well be lighting money on fire when we talk about this on the air, because somebody's going to do it.
Here's how venture capital works. You give them half your company, they give you some money, and then if the idea is really good, they won't steal they won't take all the ownership. But if your idea is okay, you'll work really hard, and then they'll either take it and bankrupt you, or they'll take it and you'll just bankrupt the company. So enjoy.
All right, so maybe we don't need to get hooked up with that. Rashard Matthews after Charles Clay. Rashard Matthews to Richard Beard. Jared Cook is the first tight end drafted by Elliott Chris. I'm telling you, station drafting. Here it is again. He's starting with the tight end.
You're right.
Good on quarterbacks, receivers, and running backs. Jared Cook goes to Elliott Chris, and then you have Dak Prescott, the number 2 quarterback taken by Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs. And I'll tell you what, I don't like the pick. You already have Mahomes. You don't need another quarterback, even in a best ball format.
No, that's fine.
Dak Prescott goes, and then Nelson Aguilar right after that to Sigmund Bloom as his number 4 receiver. Blake Bortles is the second quarterback chosen by Chad Castorina to go with Russell Wilson. Bortles goes at the 11:09. Naheem Hines, the number 4 running back selected by Rich Rebar, who obviously was very fortunate to get some good value on Kareem Hunt and Joe Mixon. He does not take another running back until the 11th round. It is Hines, and that is his number 4 running back. Austin Hooper, the penultimate pick of round 11, to Don Azell as his number 2 tight end. Case Keenum, second quarterback drafted by Josh Hornsby.
I really like Rebar's structure of this team.
Well, I mean, get into that a little bit and talk a little bit about why his structure is something that the Dizzle is a big fan of.
Well, he takes those 3 running backs. I know this is getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but he takes 3 running backs early, and he peppers in the wide receivers. He takes a tight end in the 5th, and he takes Drew Brees in the 8th. Now, Jordan Reed, granted, has injury concerns, but if he stays healthy, he's got 2 pretty elite players, Jordan Reed and Drew Brees. So then he doesn't really have this huge need to pound quarterback or pound tight end. Instead, he knows his weakness was wide receiver, so he takes Diggs, Edelman, Sanders, and then follows up Brees with Kupp, Stills. Takes Hines, which I think is a solid pick. I mean, the Colts like him. They've been pumping him up as a 3rd-down back. And then takes Benjamin in the 12th. I mean, it's nice. I mean, he knew his deficiencies at receiver, and he really tried to pound and address those.
Going to reserve judgment until I see what he does with tight ends here. But the rest of his team is pretty solid.
I mean, this team could end up sucking if Reed gets hurt.
That's the issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And put it this way. That is not a crutch I want to build my team on, of Jordan Reed staying healthy.
At least it's not about Tyler Eifert.
That should not be one of the pillars of a good fantasy team, is Jordan Reed health.
By the way, after the news that came out today about Eifert,
I didn't see this. What news came out today about Eifert?
It was something that he's like a pup list. He's not ready yet. And they should be considered week to week and questionable for week 1.
Oh, for God's sake.
I'm taking Tyler Kroft over Eifert. I'm surprised that Kroft is not going out of Eifert.
Yeah, that is.
Eifert, to me, is undraftable. I might even cut him on my Fantasy Sharks team. He sucks. He's terrible.
Is Kroft the number 3 target for Cincinnati right now? I mean, am I speaking out of place by saying that? Green and Mixon I would put ahead of him. But
and then
you have LaFell and Ross and who's the other? Tyler Boyd is there.
Yeah,
Giovanni Bernard.
They can't figure out their second. They can't figure out their second receiver. I think Croft is definitely in the mix for
could
2,
be
3, or 4.
Yeah, I'll tell you whose team would look good with Tyler Croft on it. Rich Rebar. So whatever. Okay, so that was the end of the 12th, or excuse me, round. That was round 11. We just got through. Kickoff round 12 with Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay, the 5th receiver drafted at the 12:01 to Josh Hornsby from Fantasy Insiders. Benjamin Watson is the number 3 tight end selected by Don Azell there. Kelvin Benjamin goes to Rich Rebar as his number. Am I seeing this right? Number 6 receiver. Boy, that's really good value. Get Benjamin there.
Let's just take the number 1 for a team that has no quarterback play. But he goes 2 picks after Galladay, who's the number 3 for a team that actually has good quarterback play. So it's interesting.
Well, I mean, there's a knee, a lingering knee issue with Kelvin Benjamin that you don't have with Kenny Galladay as well.
True.
But the point is made. Mohamed Sanu to Chad Castorina, followed by Tyler Lockett to Sigmund Bloom. A trio of tight ends go off the board here. Vance McDonald to Alcorn and Isaacs. Ricky Seals-Jones to Elliot Christ, station drafting. And then Tyler Eifert goes off the board to Richard Beard. I know if I ask you who your favorite tight end is of that trio, you're not going to say Eifert. So who do you like better this year, Seals-Jones or Vance McDonald?
I'll take Seals-Jones even with his legal issues.
Is it because he represents a much higher upside than Vance McDonald, or is it because he could be higher in the target pecking order in Arizona than Vance McDonald is in Pittsburgh?
Both.
Or is it yes to both?
Yeah.
Yes to both. Okay.
I mean, it is. I mean, Fitzgerald and then nobody. Ricky Seals-Jones actually looked really good last year.
Well, I mean, David Johnson is probably the number 2.
Right. I mean, as I'm talking about pass catchers, pure pass catchers, receivers and tight ends.
Right.
And Vance McDonald, I mean, to me, he's just a guy. I mean, I don't know why everybody gets so excited about him.
I think it has something to do with Pittsburgh being one of the best offenses in the NFL, but the problem is because they're one of the best offenses, he's actually pushed down the target chain there.
I mean, okay, so if you're including running backs for Pittsburgh, he's like number 5 probably on the list.
He's definitely behind Brown, Bell, and Smith-Schuster. He's probably behind Washington.
Maybe not. He might be 4th. But whatever.
I don't know. But it's the fact that it's debatable kind of lets you know where he stands.
Yeah, and Big Ben, he's not like he's going in the 5th round, 501 like Rodgers, the Hall of Famer, MVP. He goes in the 9th, 10th round.
I got to tell you, Dave, we already talked about rookie running backs falling in this draft. We might have just seen the biggest fall.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
For anybody.
This is nuts.
Any rookie running back. Nick Chubb falls.
I'm telling you, none of these guys don't play Dynasty.
All the way down.
None of these guys don't play Dynasty.
Kevin O'Brien, by the way, from Dynasty League Football, grabbed Nick Chubb in the 12th round. He gets Lamar Miller, Jay Ajayi, Rex Burkhead, Kerryon Johnson, all ahead of Nick Chubb.
I could be asking Kevin O'Brien why he didn't take Chubb in the 10th or the 11th. He screwed up those 2 picks too.
Well, I mean, he did need tight ends. I will say that.
I'm kidding.
Nick Chubb goes off the board tonight at the 12:09. You want to guess what his normal ADP is for FFPC best ball?
I would guess.
Wrong. Guess again.
8:07. Oh, that's pretty close.
Yeah, very good guess. And Kevin O'Brien got 4 rounds of value there. 4 rounds of value.
Incredible.
In the prestigious Pros versus Joes competition. That is tough to do. Congratulations.
That's like going on Antiques Roadshow and getting a $20,000 bid on your little amulet.
Amulet?
Yeah.
Do they have a lot of amulets on that show?
Yeah, they have all sorts of crap.
I know. I just never saw an amulet. Not that I watch it, but when I've seen it in the past, it's always like a chest of drawers or some sort of lamp or vase or something.
Yeah, it's like some really ugly green vase, like you said. And they're like, oh, this is from the 1820s. It's worth $8,000. I'm like, I wouldn't give 10 cents for an ugly pile of crap.
Yeah. George Washington once relieved himself in this vase. You can tell by how the brass polish is worn at these areas around the rim.
At auction, this would go for $8,000. I'm like, yeah, right.
All right, we need to move on past this. I don't know how we get on some of these tangents.
This is the best show of the 3, by the way.
Definitely not.
Most tangents.
Most definitely not the best show out of. It's the fact that we start off with the first one and we're all white hot and then everything goes downhill from there. They're going to get worse people.
Well, we've already talked about all these stupid players, so I want to talk about something else. Has anyone called in?
No.
Can we please get a caller?
Yeah, we had a caller earlier. Ken in Jacksonville called in. That was good to hear from Ken.
Yeah, he was nice.
So you had Theo Riddick right after Nick Chubb. Theo Riddick goes to Derek Brinkman, Giovanni Bernard at the 12-11, and then the defense is cracked with the Jags again falling to the 12-12. This is really interesting to me that we've seen consistently in FFPC best ball formats. The Jacksonville defense has an ADP of the 11th round, and this is the highest we've seen them go thus far, and it's still at the 12-13 turn. People are just not picking defenses in this format.
It's tough for me to, I don't care what kind of defense value you get. I don't care. I'm not impressed by defense value.
Yeah, but, I mean, okay, that's fine, but they help you win, Dave.
Yeah, defenses are so unpredictable that I think that it's a waste to draft the number one ranked so-called defense.
Okay.
Because they don't end up being the number one ranked defense. It's invariably is the way that it is.
How would you handle defenses if you were drafting the pros versus Joes? How many of them
I would take 3.
I know you would obviously, yes, I would take 3 too, but how many of them are off the board before you look at drafting
I'll tell you one
the
thing.
first one?
I'll tell you 4 of these people are not going to be taking 3 defenses.
That's true.
Mathematically.
Yeah. Yes.
So 4 people.
I get it.
4 people will be making a mistake because you have to take 3.
You don't have to. There's plenty of data out there that says you need 2.
No, there's not. The data is absolutely steadfast that 3 defenses is correct.
I know what you're talking about.
Fine. Anyway, I would not be the first one to take a defense. I would probably be if I was especially at the end, I would wait till 6 to 8 were off the board or whatever in that neighborhood, and then I would just grab a couple. Just make sure that if you have 2 defenses and you have 2 kickers, you always can grab the third one. But if you only have 1, then you're in a little bit.
You can't draft the third one.
You can't draft the third one. You got to get a second one still. So that's what you don't want to be left having. Even if it's the Cleveland Browns as your third defense, it's at least you got.
It doesn't matter. I honestly, for me, I don't care. I'll take 3 crappy defenses.
I care about the defenses. I do want to have some that are at least. I'd like to have one in the top 10. I'd like to actually have a fairly semi-elite kicker if I can. But if I miss, it's okay. But I want to have guys that I've heard their names before. I want to have Graham Gano, Mason Crosby type guys. I don't want the guys like Rosas, where I'm like, is he keeping the job or not?
Exactly. That's what I'm always concerned about with kickers, and I think it's much more important for the kickers. But teams can't cut the entire defense.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, and that's fine. If I have had a lot of success rolling with, let's say, Detroit, New Orleans, Cleveland, just off the top of my head, 3 blasé, not very good defenses, and it works because of the value you get from the other positions. Shane Hallam chiming in the chat room. We're talking about how many defenses, how many kickers you need. As he so eloquently puts, you only need 1 tight end in this competition, as Tim McCullough proved a few years back when he drafted Antonio Gates as his sole tight end and won the whole damn thing.
I think the fact that happened it's a crazy outlier, and that it's fine. But people haven't been doing that, by the way. But taking 2.
Nobody's done it since.
Taking 2 tight ends is another tragic mistake.
Yeah, that's really bad. I think in a tight end premium format, I think you even need more than 3.
I think 3 to 4. I think 4 is actually all right.
I would shoot for 4 or 5.
Well, whatever.
28 rounds, 5 tight ends.
Well, don't take 5 just to spite yourself. I mean, you actually have to have 5 legitimate ones.
Well, I plan on being dominant everywhere else, so I can afford the 5th tight end, Dave.
Yeah, well, you have Mahomes. I'm sure your team will be amazing.
Oh, yeah, so exactly. I probably don't even need any tight ends. I'll take a 0 at tight end just to make things fair for everybody else.
Sure.
1301 is Doug Martin. That's Stephen Michaud's pick there. And then DJ Moore falls at 1302 tonight to Dan Senio. The Los Angeles Rams defense to Derek Brinkman at the 1303, followed by Jordy Nelson and Mitchell Trubisky. Nelson to O'Brien, Trubisky to Beard. Trio of receivers right after that. Josh Doxson to Elliott Chris. Calvin Ridley to Alcott and Alcorn and Isaacs. And then Paul Richardson right after that. Who do you like best of that trio, David? Oh, hold on. Let me guess. Between Doxson, Ridley, and Richardson, you like Richardson best.
Yeah, I like Richardson best.
Significantly better than Doxson and Ridley.
I wouldn't say significantly better, but I think Doxson's had his chance to break out. He's busted. I don't think Ridley's going to do a whole heck of a lot as a rookie. I think Richardson's shown some talent. He's moved on, and I think he's a better player than Doxson. I
like this Buck Allen pick by Chad Castrina, a guy that is, every year he gets undervalued for his pass-catching chops, and I think this year is the same thing. People are not going to respect the fact that he's still going to be an integral part of that offense. And Chad Castorina gets him in round 13 here. Devontae Booker to Rich Rebar there, potentially the starting running back in Denver. Third straight draft, the Royce Freeman owner does not get Devontae Booker, excuse me. So there is a bit of a disconnect there between the Freeman owners and, handcuffing him. Ted Ginn right after that to Don Azell, and then Matt Breida, the running back from San Francisco, goes to Josh Hornsby there to complete round 13.
I wonder if Azell would have taken Booker there. I bet he would have.
Yeah.
13-11.
Yeah.
Rebar screwed him on purpose.
Could have been some snipage going on there. Yep. That's definitely a possibility. Let's get into round 14 here. It's Peyton Barber going to Fantasy ADHD as he gets Barber as his 5th running back. Deontay Foreman is the selection for Don Azell in round 14. 1403 pick is Cameron Meredith to Rich Rebar, followed by Hayden Hurst, one of your favorites, Dave. Missed practice this week because of a soft tissue injury. He was back today, balling out, probably catching touchdown after touchdown from Lamar Jackson.
Probably.
If only he could be paired with Patrick Mahomes, and everything would be perfect.
Hey, did you see I sent you a trade offer in Carrington?
No, I didn't. When did you send it to me?
Last night.
No, what, for my Lamar Jackson?
Yeah, I offered you Mahomes for Lamar Jackson.
Straight up?
Yep.
Oh, I might have to do that.
It's out there, Balky. It is out there. Hey, chat room, what do you think? Blog Talk Radio chat room.
Well, we have some dynasty owners in this draft too, and we should have them contact us.
I offered up Patrick Mahomes for Balky's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So
who would you rather have? Get the Twitter poll going, Rob, and
we don't want to actually. Why don't you just evaluate the results separately and make a decision?
Who are you, Rob?
You.
No. Well, I will evaluate it separately. I've made bets with you on the air, and I've made trades with you on the air that I regretted almost immediately. So I won't be making that mistake right now. I'll be making that mistake later.
All right.
What I'm trying to say.
Perfect.
So Hayden Hurst goes to Chad Castorina, and then Andy Dalton, the number 2 quarterback drafted by Sigmund Bloom here in the 14th round. Chris Carson goes off the board to Alcorn and Isaacs there, the FFPC duo. FFPC Joe duo there. Mike Gesicki is the number 3 tight end drafted by Elliot Chris, so he actually stopped his station drafting. Now he's just all over the board. You don't know what's going to happen.
He's ruined his team.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say he's ruined it, but he's just totally unpredictable now. This must be where the alcohol sets in the meal, and now he's just getting sloppy.
Maybe he had a piece of cheese between courses with Josh Doxson.
Yeah, it could be. Some figs. Maybe he had a fig there, Josh Doxson.
Cleanse the palate.
Yeah, cleanse the palate indeed. James White right after Mike Gesicki. Richard Beard takes James White. Jordan Matthews. What do you make of this pick? Kevin O'Brien takes Jordan Matthews, a guy who could be integral in the New England passing game this year, round 14.
We were talking about him in the chat, actually, Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier. Mike Reese, the Patriots reporter for ESPN, has actually been touting Jordan Matthews quite a bit in his off-season musings. So I think this is a guy that we need to pay attention to.
Well, Matthews is, like I said in the chat, he's a consummate professional. He's a hard worker. Remember, he was the guy he was like a 2-star recruit at Vanderbilt, and everyone was down on him. And he's grinded his way into the pros. He's been a top 24 wide receiver before.
Right.
So it's not inconceivable that he could be the guy that Brady ends up relying on, actually.
Yes.
He's a good professional football player, and that's the type of guy that the Patriots would love. It's actually a really good fit.
Yeah, and you're getting him late. I mean, if
he's healthy, I think he might be all right.
Number 5 receiver, am I looking at it? Yeah, it's the number 5 receiver for
6.
Kevin O'Brien. Number 6?
Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, plus Cobb, plus Jordy, plus Matthews is 6. Antonio Brown, AJ Green, Mike Evans equals 3. Plus Randall Cobb is 4.
All right, I got it. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You paused for like 10 seconds.
Because I kept counting 5. I counted 5 like 3 times in a row. I'm like, Dave is full of it. That's not. No, it is 6. Once again, Dizzle comes up on top of the math department.
Well, it's addition.
As a Juilliard-trained journalist, Dave, we never really worked on math.
This is the addition.
Yeah. Vernon Davis, the number 1 tight end for Derek Brinkman here in the 14th round. That's going to be a problem. That will be a problem for this squad. We'll get into it. I don't know if I've seen anybody take a defense before a tight end before. I've seen people take defenses and kickers before quarterbacks before, not before tight ends.
There's a few out there I still like at tight end, but You should go for a
The
start.
sun is shining. It's time to make that tight end hay right now.
There's actually 2 tight ends right now. If you took those 2 tight ends, he'd be all right.
Okay. Well,
IMHO.
I will disagree with that. That he would be all right if he got these 2 tight ends.
I'm writing them down here.
I will disagree.
You can probably guess who they are actually.
I can for sure guess who one of them is.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay, so the Eagles defense is right after Vernon Davis. The Eagles defense goes to Dan Sainio, and then completing round 14 is Des Bryant to Stephen Michaud as his number. I should just have you count this because I'll count it wrong. As his number 5 receiver. Thanks, I appreciate that. As his number 5 receiver, Des Bryant, the final pick of round 14. Let's get into round 15 here. We've got a good pace going tonight. Corey Clement is the selection by Stephen Michaud to kick off round 15. It's his number 5 running back. Bilal Powell at the 15:02 to Dan Sainio. Martavis Bryant comes off the board to Derek Brinkman there as his receiver at the 15:03. Mike Williams right after that. So Kevin O'Brien pounding the receivers here. Jordy Nelson, Jordan Matthews, and Mike Williams back to back here in rounds 13 through 15. The Vikings defense goes off the board to Richard Beard, followed by Jake Butt as the 4th tight end drafted by Elliott Christ, the guy who has some upside in that Denver offense. How well will he bounce back from that torn ACL? It remains to be seen. Chargers defense to the Team Colorado, I should just call him. Caleb Alcorn, Sean Isaacs takes Chargers defense there. Derek Carr is the 3rd quarterback drafted by Sigmund Bloom tonight at the 15:08. Tyrell Williams right after that, Chargers receiver to Chad Castorino. The Ravens defense, the 3rd defense chosen in the 15th round tonight, goes to Rich Rebar, Stephen Gostkowski to Don Azell, and then the Texans defense, the 4th defense chosen tonight in the 15th round to Josh ADHD. I expect to see some pretty big defenses run, or pretty big defense run go here, Dave. Your thoughts on what you've just witnessed here?
Which round? The 15th?
15th. You were just shaking your head. Clearly you have something to say.
No, I was looking ahead just a little bit. So that's why I'm looking at tight ends and just teams overall. My overall take on this is that I still think there's wide receivers and running backs out there that are capable, talented, and should be drafted. So I'm not, again, I see the defense is starting to go. I still think you should probably get one pretty soon, but man, it's just tough to pass on some of this talent just to grab a defense.
Shane Hallam just said in the chat room that Jordan Matthews is Jerry Rice's cousin. Is that true?
Maybe.
Have you heard that?
I don't know.
I'm kind of curious. I'm going to have to bump him up my draft boards. Pedigree. Jordan Matthews. Clearly he didn't inherit Rice's health. I'll tell you that.
When did he get hurt 1 year?
No, he's been hurt all the time. Come on. Jordan Matthews has missed a lot of time. You can look it up if you want.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to see how accurate your statement is. I'm think I'm disagreeing.
Spoiler alert, 100% accurate. You look that up. I'm going to go through the 16th round here as Justin Tucker becomes the 2nd kicker drafted tonight. Fantasy ADHD from Fantasy Insiders. That's Josh Hornsby, and he takes Justin Tucker as his number one kicker. The Denver defense then goes to Don Azell, followed by Ryan Tannehill as the backup to Drew Brees for Rich Rebar's squad. Keelan Cole, I like that pick in the 16th round. Nice job, Chad Castorina. That's a good selection. I feel like Lee Corso on ESPN College Game Day. Ooh, hey, that's a great pick. Where he always does that thing. Latavius Murray is the running back drafted by Sigmund Bloom here in the 16th round, followed by Greg Zuerlein, Legatron, going to Team Colorado. The New Orleans Saints defense is off the board to Elliott Christ. Right after his Jake Butt selection, he goes with the Saints defense in the 16th. Kenneth Dixon off the board to Richard Beard, and then a couple of tight ends. One of them I know you were hoping would go to Derek Brinkman's squad was Luke Wilson, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was one. That was one of them. He goes off the board. Luke Wilson is the number 3 tight end to Kevin O'Brien, and then he does get Gerald Everett there. Brinkman does. I don't think that was on your list. Is the other guy still on your list that he could draft?
Yeah.
Okay, he's still out there, and he's on the
means
clock,
that
right?
No, he picked somebody else.
Oh.
It means there's 11 other people who are making mistakes right now too, by the way.
Shane Hallam, by the way, did interview Jordan Matthews at the Senior Bowl, and that is accurate that he is Jerry Rice's cousin.
Nice, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm learning so much tonight. This is why we do these PBs.
Speaking of learning something, Jordan Matthews missed. He missed No games as a rookie.
Yeah.
No games his second year.
Oh, come on.
He missed 2 games his third year.
Yeah.
And he missed 6 games last year.
You should be knowing that the website Dave is on right now is jordanmatthewsmom.com. So clearly,
you can argue that he's been fully healthy for half of his career only. How about that? That's a bad thing.
Yeah, but the first half of his career, where it's easier to be healthy.
How about this? 100% of his last 2 seasons, he hasn't been fully healthy. Fuck on that.
I feel like I'm doing the show with Yogi Berra all of a sudden. Gerald Everett, I mentioned to Derek Brinkman, Michael Gallup in the at the 16-11, and then Austin Eckler. I like the Austin Eckler pick too. I think, did we talk about him already, Austin Eckler?
Not really, not a whole lot.
So the reason I like him is, boy, I swear to God we talked about him, but whatever. Justin Jackson was like a later pick.
We talked a little bit about Justin Jackson.
But the reason I was kind of like down on Jackson, it doesn't seem like everybody's falling all over themselves saying that he's going to be the handcuff to Gordon. I think if Gordon were to go down, Austin Eckler would probably get the lion's share of carries, and he's already a pass catcher.
Right.
You know, he's already a guy, and I think getting these double-digit round pass-catching running backs, I think it gives you such an advantage.
And the handcuff is the bonus part, right? That's nice. I agree.
Well, he doesn't have Melvin Gordon, but yeah.
But I'm saying, having a handcuff of a starting
player. Like a good handcuff. I see what you're saying.
It's a good anti-fragile strategy there.
Yeah. All right, good point. Good knowledge.
Well, that was your point.
Well, no, I was understanding the handcuff point that you were making.
Right.
I was just trying to make that clear. We are through 16 rounds here. I think it is time to get into some team analysis, and hopefully we'll wrap this show up by 11 tonight, and we'll actually do a 2-hour show instead of a 2-hour and 15-minute show like we have been doing. Okay, so first kick things off here with FFPC Joe, Steve Michaud from the number 1 spot. The running backs, Todd Gurley, Chris Thompson, Carlos Hyde, Doug Martin, Corey Clement, Austin Eckler. The receivers, Doug Baldwin, T.Y. Hilton, Larry Fitzgerald, Michael Crabtree, Des Bryant. The tight ends, David Njoku, Eric Ebron. Quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis Winston. So the thing that sticks out to me is the Rodgers pick. I probably would have gone in a different direction there. A running back, I think, is what you alluded to when we were talking about his team earlier. I think that might have improved his backfield a little bit. He did a nice job getting guys like Clement, getting guys like Eckler. And Doug Martin, who knows? I mean, maybe he turns back the clock and takes that job from Lynch, or at least carves out a pretty big role there. So there's something to be said for that. He did not take a tight end until round 9, but getting Njoku and Ebron I think was good. I probably would have used another pick on a tight end at this point in the draft. I think that may come back to hurt him. He's obviously very top-heavy at receiver, which is probably the strength of his team, along with Gurley. But he kind of ignored the position after round 6. So I think this team has some potential. It's also got some question marks.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said, actually. The picks like Doug Martin, Des Bryant, Clement, Eckler aren't bad picks, actually. I was not a fan of his running backs after Gurley. I'm still not a fan of his running backs after Gurley. But if he gets lucky, if he gets some injuries, he could end up all right. His receivers are pretty solid. Top 4 are good. And Des is kind of a little wild card, so he could be okay. He needs a lot of things to fall his way, I think, for him to do well.
Moving on to Dan Sanyo from Dynasty League Football and RotoViz. The running backs, David Johnson, Devontae Freeman, Aaron Jones, Giovanni Bernard, Bilal Powell. The receivers, Allen Robinson, Jarvis Landry, Corey Davis, Sterling Shepard, DJ Moore, Michael Gallup. The tight ends, Zach Ertz, O.J. Howard. And the quarterbacks, Cam Newton, Marcus Mariota. I'm going to go out and say I'm not talking about people's quarterbacks anymore. Like, I don't think I've ever been critical about anybody's quarterbacks in pros history.
Very nice quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're fine. I like the Ertz and Howard combo. I think that was good. I'm worried about the running back depth, although getting pass catchers like Bernard and Powell should help him, especially if Powell makes the team.
Well, if Freeman's productive, he has David Johnson and Freeman.
Yeah, I mean, they're super studly at the top for sure. And then some youthful breakout candidates here at receiver with Davis and Shepard, DJ Moore, Michael Gallup. There's some potential there of the unknown. Obviously, the unknown is not always a good thing. Sometimes it's bad if these guys don't pan out. But he's got some potential there, and he obviously covered himself at tight end with Ertz and Howard.
Yeah, I like a lot of his middle rounds of late picks. I think that Shepard, DJ Moore, and Gallup all have upside in various different ways. Jones, Bernard, Powell, all pass-catching type backs. So I think he did really well with those picks. So overall, I like this team. I like this team more than I actually thought that I would, actually. Given that his number 3 is Corey Davis and his number 4 is Shepard, I mean, that's not really traditionally where I would be, but I think he's got a chance to compete.
Indeed, I am just fixing the YouTube feed right now so we can get a few more picks in there. And I'm going to move over here to look at my draft board. Okay, so that was Dan Sanyo from Dynasty League Football and RotoViz. By the way, who did take some rookies. He obviously plays Dynasty, being a DLF guy.
He did.
But
I think I would have, just to go back to the team real quick, I probably would not have taken Howard and Mariota as high as he invested 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends in draft capital in his first 11 rounds, which limited him at running back and receiver. So I think that's an area where I think I would definitely not have gone that direction.
Yeah, I mean, if you get Cam Newton, I mean, if you could have held off on Mariota and then taken like Carr, Dalton, Trubisky, Tannehill. I mean, these guys were all out there. Unless it was just like the FOMO syndrome where he just didn't want to, get skunked on a decent second quarterback.
I mean, it was fine. I don't know.
You just would have gone a different direction, which is fine.
Yeah, I would have, but that's okay.
Derek Brinkman, FFPC Joe in the 3rd spot tonight. Running backs, Le'Veon Bell, LaShawn McCoy, Ronald Jones, Jamal Williams, Theo Riddick. Receivers, Devontae Adams, Brandon Cooks, Golden Tate, Jamison Crowder. Tight ends, Vernon Davis, Gerald Everett. And quarterbacks, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo. Dave, I really like this team. I think you got great value on Jones. If McCoy does not have any legal issues against him this year, that's going to be a good pick. However, stacking all these running backs and receivers, he paid the iron price for it at tight end. He paid the iron price because he has Vernon Davis as his number 1 tight end, Gerald Everett as his backup. Like I said, when he made the Davis pick, tight ends are going to be a problem for him, and that hasn't changed for me.
Yeah, I think his tight ends is just so rough. I mean, if he had actually, instead of taking Wentz, Goff, and Garoppolo and taking tight ends there instead, and then taking Dalton and Tannehill and Carr, he'd be in better shape. If he had reversed out the purple for the red, he'd be in better shape.
Yeah. He should have done a little bit different station drafting.
Or mixed it up a little. Yes, I think his team is great.
Should have had the appetizer after the entree. That's what the problem was tonight.
Tight ends are too big of a downfall.
If you can't tell, I am super hungry and have been throughout this show tonight.
You've been dieting too much, Bobby.
It was a mistake just talking about food throughout the program. Kevin O'Brien from Dynasty League Football, Lamar Miller, Jay Ajayi, Rex Burkhead, Kerryon Johnson, Nick Chubb at running back. Receivers, Antonio Brown, A.J. Green, Mike Evans, Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, Jordan Matthews, Mike Williams. Tight end, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Charles Clay, and Luke Wilson. Kirk Cousins is the quarterback. Dave, I think this is probably my favorite team so far, just a little bit nervous at quarterback.
This is kind of like a Gerzak draft, in my opinion. If I was going to go receivers early, even though I probably wouldn't have taken Lamar Miller because I just not as
definitely would have not taken Randall Cobb either.
True. I mean, the players he took are not the players I would have taken necessarily, but his running backs turned out great. I mean, with Kerryon Johnson in the 8th and Nick Chubb in the freaking 12th is insane. I think he did the tight end strategy, like I was talking about, taking 3 kind of crappy tight ends, ASJ, Clay, and I think Luke Wilson's a super nice value. And then he only has 1 quarterback at Kirk Cousins. So he's going to, by the way, he does need to get 3, so I'm not sure who's left. Yeah. He's going to be looking at he's going to be serving up A.J. McCarron and Josh Allen at some point soon if he's not careful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few guys out there.
I know, but I mean, he can't ignore that forever. He does need to get 3. So as long as he gets a couple more quarterbacks, I do like his team a lot.
Do you think you can't get away with 2 quarterbacks, is what you're saying?
Yeah, but you can get away with 2 quarterbacks, but they have to stay healthy. A lot of times they don't. It's a huge disadvantage to have 2 quarterbacks.
What about if he goes Trevor Siemian, just say like Josh Rosen? You don't know.
He just took Eli, by the way, so that's good.
Okay, so Eli and then Trevor Siemian. Would you be okay with that?
If I were at this point now, if I had Kirk Cousins, Eli would throw a shot at Lamar Jackson or something like that.
Okay. Well, Siemian, I was just saying since he's Cousins' backup.
I guess. I mean, but I would take him the 28th or 27th.
Yeah. You probably would not have to take him.
As my 4th. I would not take him as my 3rd.
Okay, fair enough. Richard Beard, the FFPC Joe, drafting out of the 5th spot tonight. Here's how his draft turned out. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott, Jerick McKinnon, Marlon Mack, James White, Kenneth Dixon. Receivers, Josh Gordon, Alshon Jeffrey, Marquise Goodwin, Alan Hearns, Rashard Matthews. Tight ends are Greg Olson and Jack Doyle. quarterbacks Phillip Rivers and Mitchell Trubisky. Obviously the running backs are super studly at the top, but the depth is questionable after that. I'm not a huge fan of the receivers as well. I think that you can pull Coles and Gordon and Jeffrey and even Goodwin to a certain extent. I thought the Hearns pick in the 10th was fine. Richard Matthews in the 11th I like. Eifert, I didn't mention at tight end. That's his number 3 tight end. And the tight ends are good. Olsen, Doyle, and Eifert, that's fine. Eifert is your number 3 with Doyle and Olsen in front of you. Not the way I probably would have done the team, but a team that will be in the thick of it.
Yeah, I'm concerned about his flex position because I'm not a big fan of Marlon Mack. I'm not a big fan of some of the receivers he was taking later. And like you said, Gordon and Jeffrey as your 1 and 2, they're kind of a little on the dicey side just because of the health of Jeffrey and Josh Gordon's just being Josh Gordon.
Right. Okay, here's a fun one to talk about. The quad edges, Elliott, Chris. Let's talk about this squad. Running backs are complete shit. Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Howard, Rashad Penny, Darius Geis. Receivers, Marvin Jones, Chris Hogan, Devontae Parker, Josh Doxson. Tight ends, Jared Cook, Ricky Seals-Jones, Mike Gesicki, Jake Butt, and then the quarterbacks are Matthew Stafford and Andrew Luck. You only have to start 2 receivers in this format. I got to believe more often than not, Elliott is going to be trotting out 3 or 4 running backs on a week-to-week basis. And he's got some potential upside with Seals, Jones, Gesicki, and Butt. Again, all young guys, all unproven, all unknown. Maybe one of them breaks out. You'd like to think that Jared Cook is going, you kind of know what you're getting with him. So if his tight ends, if he gets one of those tight ends to break out and those, if Parker or Doxson can make an impact, those running backs will carry him throughout the season.
Yeah, I think that by stacking those running backs, he ignored receiver. I think those were mistakes, actually, and I think the tight ends as well. Because Gesicki and Butt, I can't get behind that. I can't get behind Jared Cook. So, if he had taken Kamara and McCaffrey and then passed on Jordan Howard and taken, let's say Tyreek Hill, if you like Tyreek Hill, and then taken, let's say Fitz or Allen Robinson, and then taken Geis, he could have had Kamara, McCaffrey, Hill, Fitz, Geis, and then still taking all those wide receivers. But now your number one's Marvin Jones, Chris Hogan, and Devontae Parker. It's like those receivers are fairly terrible, actually. So you're relying on your running backs the whole way through, and you're just going to start two receivers the whole time.
I will say this. The hole in that scenario is I can't imagine anybody thought Darius Geis was going to be there for him to take at the 508.
No, you're totally right. But that is exactly why you draft a balanced team through 3 or 4 rounds.
Because so you have that flexibility. Yeah.
Damn right.
Yeah.
It's true. Really. It's like that's why if you're 2 and 2, you can take whoever you want. If you're 1 and 2, you can take whoever you want. If you're taking 4, well, now you have to spite yourself just to get the value, and you did. Congratulations.
It's like the 3rd time you said spite yourself on the show tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah. I don't think you said it the last 2 nights, and it's all about we're just spiting ourselves by doing 3 straight shows.
Oh, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Who gives a...
Team Colorado. Caleb Alcorn, Sean Isaacs, FFPC. Joe is picking in the 7th spot tonight. Saquon Barkley, Sony Michel, Ty Montgomery, Chris Carson at running back. Receivers, Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley at receiver. Tight ends, Delaney Walker, George Kittle, Vance McDonald, Patrick Mahomes, and Dak Prescott. Dave, at the risk of losing all my credibility, I don't think I can get behind this team despite it having Patrick Mahomes.
And Barkley.
And Barkley, yeah. I'm worried about the running backs on this squad.
Why? Because the best running back, the most points scored out of any of them was by Ty Montgomery. They have 0 points per year out of Michelle and Barkley.
I don't like your backward-looking analysis. Yes, if this is 2017, you're totally right. This team would be terrible. But this is 2018. We're about prognosticating.
The point is there's just a ton of risk with the running backs because Barkley and Michelle both have to break out. That's tough. Usually about half of the running backs do break out. Thomas, Hill, and Schuster are great. Robert Woods is fine. Tight ends are pretty solid. They could be all right, but they really do need those 2 rookies to really amount to something.
Yeah.
But then they don't really have a whole lot of running back depth after that.
No, you'd like to think that. Ty Montgomery sort of has to still be relevant all season for Green Bay in that backfield. Chris Carson needs to have an impact on that Seattle backfield.
He's a starter, you were telling me today.
He could be. He might be. You don't know. Pete Carroll doesn't know. Well, Pete Carroll probably knows, but he wouldn't tell you. Pete Carroll could probably hold 1 press conference and announce both those guys as the starter. He'd find a way to do it.
Right.
Moving on to Sigmund Bloom's team at the 8th spot tonight. Dalvin Cook, Dion Lewis, Marshawn Lynch, Tariq Cohen, Latavius Murray at running back. Receivers, Demarius Thomas, Pierre Garçon, Robbie Anderson, Nelson Aguilar, Tyler Lockett, Paul Richardson. Tight ends, Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham, and quarterbacks, Alex Smith, Andy Dalton, Derek Carr. A lot of people in both chats, actually, the YouTube and Blog Talk Radio, were pretty critical of Bloom's start. But they also said that he really turned it around and put himself together. Nice little team here. And I'm not disagreeing with that either.
The problem with taking the 2 tight ends early is it's kind of like you get like a $500 pair of shoes. And then you can't afford good jeans or good shirt. Your tie, your tie is no good. Because all you can afford was the 2. So then you're looking at your outfit like, oh man, these shoes are really nice. The rest of it looks like crap. And
I don't think it does.
Look, I think because you go so tight end early, you look at the rest of the team. The quarterbacks are comparatively to other teams, they're crappy. You look at the running backs, comparatively to a lot of the other teams, they're crappy. You look at the wide receivers, and comparatively to a lot of the other teams, they're crappy. I mean, they are. It's fine. His tight ends are amazing. But comparatively, the other 3 positions, which do matter, by the way, are not all that good.
I would not – I think you're being a little hard here. I think there's certainly
his running backs could be okay, actually. I should say that.
And, I mean, you look at the receivers, too. I mean, okay, so the top of them, Thomas, Garçon, Anderson, that doesn't get you excited. But when you add in the fact that you have Nelson Aguilar, who really came on last season as your number 4. You have Tyler Lockett, who is probably going to be the de facto number 2 receiver in an offense that should be throwing it a lot this year because they're going to be behind. And then Paul Richardson, a guy who just signed a big money deal in Washington, as your number 6. I mean, I think that the depth that he built with receiver after ignoring tight end after the first 3 rounds, that sort of helped him out. So I think that this team is a little bit better than you're giving it credit for.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Not the way you would formulate a team.
It's not. And by the way, Sigmund's an awesome drafter. Great at making rankings. I love him. Good guy. So.
And has won this league before.
Sure.
So.
Yes, he's great.
Put it this way: this will be an interesting team to follow throughout the season.
The quarterbacks, as much as I crap on them, they're actually all right. I mean, Smith, Dalton, Carr, you still get excited about them.
I don't care. Yeah,
they're fine.
I'm fine with never getting excited for quarterbacks in fantasy. I'm fine with.
But as far back as I'm going to pull back on it, so that's fine.
Okay, let's get into Chad Castorina's team here. Running backs: Melvin Gordon, Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, Duke Johnson, Buck Allen. Receivers are Keenan Allen, Devin Funchess, Marquise Lee, Mohamed Sanu, Tyrell Williams, Keelan Cole. Tight ends: Evan Engram, Cameron Brate, and quarterbacks: Russell Wilson and Blake Bortles. Running back depth will be called into question early on with Mark Ingram's suspension. The receiver depth isn't great, although I like the Marquise Lee pick. I think Tyrell Williams could be good. I love the Keelan Cole pick in the 16th.
To go with Marquise Lee, by the way.
To go with Marquise Lee. I'm not a huge fan of either the tight ends, but I wouldn't draft Engram and Brate, but when you look at it from a best ball standpoint, you could do worse than that, especially when you have the running backs and receivers that he does. So I would say this is an above-average team. Clearly not my favorite, but one that I think should be competitive.
I don't really care I don't like drafting tight ends like Brate or Jack Doyle or Ebron or O.J. Howard.
The tight end by committees guys.
Yeah, I mean it's like how good is that? I mean O.J. Howard is different because he actually wasn't really a drafted guy, so he could emerge. I thought the Ingram pick was fine, but his receiver depth is not so hot. His running backs are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, even with Ingram being suspended, he's got Henry and Duke Johnson for those weeks, and so he's fine.
And Buck Allen.
And that's after Melvin Gordon. So, yeah, I think he's good. I think the receivers are a little bit weak, but he did, sprinkled in, kind of like Sigmund Bloom did, and he tried to recover well there.
Rich Rebar, let's go to him from Roto World. You know what? I got to fix the. Sorry, everybody on the YouTube. Son of a gun.
So Rich was the guy getting value early on. Yeah. Kareem Hunt in the 2nd round, Joe Mixon in the 3rd round.
Yep.
Nyheim Hines in the 11th, and Devontae Booker in the 13th round, the starting running back for the Denver Broncos, allegedly. Go ahead, Buck. You want to cover the rest? Yeah,
that was the running backs, receivers: Stephon Diggs, Julian Edelman, Manny Sanders, Cooper Kupp, Kenny Stills, Kelvin Benjamin, Cameron Meredith. I really like that squad. Jordan Reed is the tight end.
Tight end.
That's it. Drew Brees and Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. So you look at this squad, Dave, really, really good value on Hunt and Mixon. Did a good job getting Hines and Booker on this team as well. I think the receivers are great, as far top to bottom great. Like there's not any super heavy hitters, I guess. But Diggs, Edelman, Sanders, Kupp, Stills, Benjamin, Meredith. I mean, these are all guys that should be big contributors.
True.
This team, it all hinges on Jordan Reed's health. I'm telling you, if Jordan Reed is not healthy, he's going to have a black hole at tight end.
I don't, he did fine, but I don't get it. I don't understand why he's not taking the Luke Wilsons of the world. Tyler Kroft, by the way, just went at the 1904 Kevin O'Brien, fantastic pick. He's a starting tight end for this team that's not going to have Eifert. So back to the team forward. So he has ASJ, Clay, Luke Wilson, Tyler Kroft. Cobbling the other tight ends, that's the way to do it. So why does the Jordan Reed owner feel so confident that in Jordan Reed that you don't draft any more? I don't understand that. But
I think the reason is we saw Sports Injury Predictor's Jason Rock Phelps take Jordan Reed fairly early last night. And if you have the Sports Injury Predictor guy saying that he believes in Jordan Reed, well, clearly you should be believing in Jordan Reed.
Evidently.
Don Izell was the FFPC Joe picking in the 11th spot tonight. He gets as his running backs Kenyon Drake, Royce Freeman, Isaiah Crowell, Deontay Foreman. The receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, Adam Thielen, Ted Ginn. Tight ends, Kyle Rudolph, Austin Hooper, Benjamin Watson. Quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Tom Brady, and Ben Roethlisberger. Not a fan of this team, David. It seemed like, he's got a lot of committee guys, and maybe not the good ones. Like, Royce Freeman is probably going to win the Denver job. Okay, that's fine. But
he could be awesome. You don't know.
Devontae Booker could start off the season starting, and we don't know where that's going to go. Isaiah Crowell, how many passes are you going to catch? He's contending with McGuire and Powell in that offense. And Deontay Foreman, this guy could be pucked, and that's your number 4 running back here on this squad. The receiving depth, too, after Thielen, you really didn't hit on the position at all until Ted Ginn in the 13th, so I think that's a question mark.
Who's the quarterback?
There is too much emphasis for me on both the quarterbacks and tight ends on this team, and I think that's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, I agree with you there, actually. A lot of it makes sense. I think Don's a really good player, but I think that I question that quarterback strategy. I like the Ben Watson pick, actually, in the 12th round. I think that he might actually – he's that guy that I think that he's super old. With Drew Brees, 2 old guys just slinging the rock.
And he's the number 3 tight end for him, too. He's got some guys ahead of him.
Yeah.
Final team that we'll look at tonight, Fantasy Insiders.
Josh, by the way, let me just interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Josh, ADHD, don't say anything bad about his team. He tweets like 80, he has like 80,000 tweets.
Yeah.
So just say good stuff, because he's going to tweet about this team 100 times.
Yeah, Dave, you know me, I bring the real on this show, and
Be nice to Josh, even if you don't like the team.
Listen, I can't tell a lie.
He tweeted 10 times since we started talking about his team.
I really can't fib here. Fantasy ADHD put together the greatest team ever in the history of Pro Shows.
Awesome.
So let's analyze it for you. Alex Collins, Tevin Coleman, C.J. Anderson, Matt Breida, and Peyton Barber at running back. Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Sammy Watkins, Will Fuller, and Kenny Galladay at receiver. Travis Kelce and Trey Burton are the tight ends. Matt Ryan and Case Keenum are the quarterbacks. So obviously, I have no problem with the quarterbacks. Kelce and Burton, I think, were nice gets and a great backbone to this team. I think he did good there. Getting those 3, I'm not even a big Sammy Watkins guy, but getting him in the 5th and pairing him with or adding him to a stable that already had Cooper and Jones, I thought that was a good job. After that, I would have probably gone a different direction than Galladay and Fuller. Those guys are not my favorites, are number 4 and number 5. And then I think this team hinges on the running backs. How involved is Tevin Coleman going to be in that offense? Is Alex Collins going to be the bell cow all season? Can C.J. Anderson carve out a big enough role in that Carolina backfield with Christian McCaffrey to remain relevant to keep this team afloat? And obviously, Breida and Barber, maybe limited ceilings. We know that they probably will have roles on their team, but just not really a dynamic formation of running backs here, and that's what it's going to come down to for Josh Hornsby's team.
Yeah, I thought his overall team structure was good. I think he kind of got a little bit disadvantaged by all those running backs going in the middle of the draft, with Elliott Christ, and then sent it in, taking 3 backs. So he's just so weak at running back. I think that's going to be really tough to overcome. Also, he has Kelce and Burton, he has Ryan and Keenum, and then he's now totally ignored both positions, does not have a third of either one of those. I think he really should. So I think by taking Justin Tucker and, you know, Houston defense and Jeremy Hill and whatnot, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but I mean, you do need a third tight end. You do need a third quarterback, so I think he's missing out there a little bit.
You might need a third tight end, but if you play your cards right, you may not need a second one. Final joke we'll make on the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap up the first half of our Pros versus Joes coverage for the 2018 FFPC season. I want to thank Darren Armani, Dave Gerzak, the FFPC, our producer, our mutual friend Rob, our audio engineer Bryce, and most of all of you listeners who continue to support this show for some ungodly reason. And we're really glad that you're tuning in to check out these drafts that we have each year. We will resume this Friday. Now, Pros vs. Joes won't resume until Sunday, but our normal show, the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, we'll have a couple of interviews with some Pros vs. Joes drafters this Friday at 10/9 Central. Doug Goodison, who drafted Sunday night, will talk about his team. And then Evan Silva from Roto World is actually going to come on, and we're going to talk to him about his draft as well. So 2 guests on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour this week. It's going to be great. We will resume Pros vs. Joes coverage on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 8/7 Central. The Joes led by Paul Miley, Arnie Grabanowski, Casey and Christian Dodge, Jay Reed, Scott Connor, Eric Young and Keno Moss, Adrian Quintana and Mike Mormon, and Ron Hacker and Mark Steffen. They will be leading the Joes charge against Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell from Dynasty Command Center. Darren Armani going to be drafting from FantasyMojo.com. Mike Viscani from Fantasy Sports Central. The dynamic duo of Austin Lee and Alex Melio from Football Guys, Bob Lung from Big Guy Fantasy Sports, and Jen Ryan from Football Diehards. It will be fun. It will be crazy, but not as crazy as you're going to go if you don't get your main event draft slot early. You need to take advantage of that, ladies and gentlemen. 3 hours to go. Normally I have something cheeky and fun to say at the end of these, the end of the shows.
Something sucky and not fun?
I know. We just did 2 hours of sucky and not fun, and I feel like everything that I could possibly say, I've said. I can't.
Are you taking my trade?
I can't.
Jackson,
no, I can't. I'm not in the right frame of mind for that. People are asking about it in the chat room. I will.
Fine.
I'll let you know.
People are over there.
I might need more than a night, Handy.
Hardee's Happy Hour isn't your average happy hour. From 2 to 5 p.m., double sliders are only $1.25. Call it a charbroiled hour, a double beef hour, a whole lot of melty cheese hour. Call it what you want. Happy Hour at Hardee's is a good call. Offer for a limited time and only between 2 and 5 p.m. Price and participation may vary. Tax not included. Hardee's Happy Hour isn't your average happy hour. From 2 to 5 p.m., double sliders are only $1.25. Call it a charbroiled hour, a double beef hour, a whole lot of melty cheese hour. Call it what you want. Happy Hour at Hardee's is a good call. Offer for a limited time and only between 2 and 5 p.m. Price and participation may vary. Tax not included.